Hey guys, welcome back. This is Snazzy, our all-time favorite. Today we are gonna see what if Goku fight with Villian of another world for his training. So let's move on to the video. Somewhere in Earthland, circa X 778. Earthland was a vast world filled to the brim with continents and countries of various sizes. While such lands greatly differed from one another, they all shared a common element between them. Magic. Magic has persisted throughout all of Earthland's history, being utilized as either a commodity, source of fuel, or, in the case of more powerful individuals, as a form of combat. This high versatility has allowed these individuals, commonly known as wizards, to band together and create magic guilds, which allow them to use their magic for both monetary gain and community service. Although there have been many guilds formed over the past few centuries, one located in the continent of Ishkar has consistently managed to stand above the rest in terms of sheer strength and skill. This guild was known to the people of its home country, Fiori, as Fairy Tail. As one of the largest legal guilds within said country, Fairy Tail has developed a notable reputation in history ever since its opening in X 686. And that very reputation has caused it to gather many dangerous enemies over the years, including dark guilds, such as Phantom Lord. However, a particular enemy stood far above the rest. Feared by many across all of Ishkar, this enemy was simply referred to by a single foreboding moniker. The Black Wizard, Zeref. Much of his origins remained a mystery. Many people believed he had gone missing hundreds of years ago and needed to be revived somehow. This, unfortunately, resulted in multiple cults of dark wizards being gathered to commit evil, unspeakable acts in their master's name. Such acts ranged from human sacrifice, child slavery, the pillaging of towns, and simply cold-blooded murder. Zeref himself, on the contrary, detested these acts. What he truly wanted was his own death, not the deaths of innocent human beings. Ironically enough, Zeref was very much still alive, unbeknownst to his so-called worshippers. He was slowly walking through a dark forest, looking down at the ground with a somber expression on his face. The eponymous Zeref looked to be a young man in his 20s that wore high-collared black robes. His torso was wrapped around by a large white toga, which extended down to his back like some sort of cape. He had a head of short black hair and dark colorless eyes to match. Around his neck, there also appeared to be a small, silver pendant, which clearly held some significance to him. Zeref continued walking in a slow, almost reluctant manner. As he shuffled forward, the trees he passed by shriveled up and died. The grassy terrain beneath his feet experienced a similar fate and became a lifeless gray with each progressive step. He sighed. It seemed that the curse of contradiction, even after 400 long years since the god, Anxarum, bestowed it upon him, hadn't gotten any better. Must I always cause destruction wherever I go? Zeref asked in a hoarse whisper. Tears building up in his eyes, Zeref stopped before a nearby cliffside. He tentatively stepped forward, looking down at the waters present below. If it weren't for his immortality, he would have likely jumped off and promptly ended his own existence. Unfortunately, life wasn't so simple for someone as powerful as him. He shook his head and peered up at the blue sky. The warmth of this light, sunny day wasn't even enough to thaw out the cold, empty darkness that was his heart. He frowned, thinking of the girl who came closest to doing so. Mavis Vermilion, the first guild master of Fairy Tail, truly understood his pain. They both went through the same curse of immortality and thus were able to truly love one another as no else has. Unfortunately, their forbidden love was what resulted in her death, for confessing his love of Mavis was a contradiction in itself. And again, everything in his life was a contradiction. He didn't wish to harm humanity, yet created Aetherius that would commit unspeakable acts against them. He loved his younger brother, yet brought him back as the very Aetherius who would bring about his death. He wished to die, yet also wanted to destroy his main adversary, Acnologia, the Black Dragon. At least, that's what he intended with the Eclipse project all those years ago. However, there was an outlier to his past that he couldn't quite develop an opinion on. Back when he met Mavis and her friends in X 686, there was a man of unimaginable power with them. They didn't really talk much with one another, but he did remember his name, Bardock. It was a strange name, one which didn't seem native to Earthland at all. His monkey tail was enough proof that he wasn't entirely human either, much to Zeref's growing intrigue. What made him even more interesting was the fact that he didn't use magic, yet still had the ability to manipulate the energy within himself and fly as a result of it. He referred it to as Kai, or life energy, from what little he could recall from that day. Although Zeref did wish that he gathered more information about Bardock, it wasn't a complete missed opportunity. He did, through Mavis more than anything else, learn that Bardock was a Saiyan who ended up here by means of travel through time and space. And as a Saiyan, Bardock was also married and had 2 kids before their planet was suddenly destroyed. The cause of this destruction wasn't given to Zeref, but it unnerved him, nonetheless. If there were beings truly capable of annihilating whole planets in another universe, there might be hope for his death, after all. I wonder if the famous witch, Baba Yaga, moved to the very same universe, Seraph wondered. Baba, of course, was an old crone by this point, but back in her prime, she was powerful enough to rival himself in terms of sheer magical prowess. However, she had long since disappeared to start a fortune-telling business in another universe's version of Earthland. He was curious to know what differences the two worlds truly had. The thought of this Earth caused a sudden realization to dawn upon Zeraph's mind. Even though Bardock had, supposedly, been sent back to his own universe by the end of the Second Trade War, the Black Wizard remembered Bardock offhandedly mentioning the whereabouts of his two sons. One of them, Raditz, was off-world somewhere, but the youngest one, Kakarot, was flown to the planet Earth as a baby. This was done to ensure that he would survive the end of planet Vegeta and continue to grow stronger, as Bardock briefly put it. If this Earth was indeed the one Baba Yaga traveled to all those centuries ago, then things became a whole lot more interesting. This boy, Kakarot, could have grown into a warrior in his own right and potentially be able to use Kai as well. Baba also provided him an outlet to learn about magic if they were to meet at some point in the Saiyan child's life. In that sense, Kakarot could be the best of both worlds. Seraph grinned to a somewhat sinister degree. It appears that I have another potential contender to oppose me. I wonder how you will fare in this little competition, dear Natsu. He continued to stand atop the cliff with a wide grin. In the distance, black storm clouds began to entrench the once clear sky in darkness. If your father was so strong, I anticipate the power you will bring to the table, Kakarot. Seraph whispered to himself. The question is, once you make your way to Earthland, will you be powerful enough to break my curse? A bolt of lightning struck in the background, causing Zeraph's form to be partially concealed in shadows as his eyes turned bluestered. He then immediately went back to normal as raindrops began to fall. I'll be waiting to see how you handle this situation, Baba, muttered Seraph, anticipating the day Baba Yaga, now known as Fortunateller Baba, would take notice of Goku's talents. He then turned around and nonchalantly walked into the forest once more. Baba's palace, age 750. Master Roshi, Baba, and the others were currently waiting for Goku to finish up his errands. After managing to reunite with his grandpa, Gohan, and gather the fifth Dragon Ball, Goku agreed to locate the other two so he could successfully wish Yoopa's dad, Bora, back to life. Baba, in that moment, was positioned atop her crystal ball next to Roshi. She was a fairly short old woman with light purple hair and a black witch's outfit. She contentedly looked around the area until a sudden chill went down her spine. Her eyes widened as she broke out into a cold sweat for seemingly no reason. The hell was that? Baba thought in concern. The last time she felt this way was back in Earthland, back when she last encountered that damned black wizard. Was he thinking about her or something? The mere thought of it creeped her out a bit. Roshi quirked a brow, taking note of his sister's sudden change in mood. You alright, Baba? You look like you just saw the Grim Reaper. I'm fine, idiot. I just remembered something I wanted to propose to Goku, is all. Baba grunted. Roshi didn't look entirely convinced, but nodded anyways. Goku, He should be heading out to train for the next tournament fairly soon, so it better not be anything too major. For your information, this has everything to do with his training. It should help him grow stronger in many ways. Baba replied. Roshi stroked his beard in sudden curiosity. So be it then. I guess I'll find out what it is soon enough. The old master said. But that last remark, Goku returned on the flying Nimbus. His spiky black hair flowed in the wind as he rocketed back to the outdoor arena. Due to a prior altercation with the Pilaf gang, Goku was now wearing a purple robe with a yellow shirt tucked in from the inside. This new outfit had a violet belt that was tied into a bow, keeping his similarly colored pants tightly bound in place. Additionally, the power pole was kept inside of a holster on his back. Hey, guys. I'm back. Goku shouted. Goofily grinning, he parked Nimbus directly in front of Bulma, Pure, Krillin, and Yamcha. How'd it go? Was the Eternal Dragon able to revive Yoopa's dad all right? Krillin asked. The bald monk was wearing a yellow guy with short sleeves and orange pants. Goku grinned, giving Krillin a sign of victory with his fingers. Yup. It was a piece of cake. Goku's friends all congratulated him on the good deed was able to perform. He was proving himself to be quite helpful over these past few months. I bet they were really happy to see each other again. Yamcha beamed. He was wearing his typical attire as a desert bandit, but with a much shorter hairdo. You did good, kid. Master Roshi proudly expressed his approval. Nodding along in thanks, Goku suddenly grabbed his pants with a look of sheer panic. Ah. Oh no. I gotta pee. He yelped. Goku then made a run for the corner and abruptly pulled his pants down. He then began to pee, much to Baba's horror. Don't do it there. Go find a bush somewhere, you animal. The old witch shrieked. Sometimes she wondered if Gohan even did a good job raising him to begin with. Goku sniggered after finishing his business. Heh. Sorry Baba. But, when you gotta go, right? Baba winced in disgust. I'm going to pretend you didn't just say that. So, what now, Goku? Isn't it going to be a whole year until you find your grandpa's keepsake again? Bulma asked, wondering what else Goku could do after this recent search for the Dragon Balls. Goku then pulled a spherical stone out of his shirt. Actually, I managed to grab the 4-star ball before it escaped this time. Goku chuckled. Bulma's jaw dropped in surprise. Wow. I didn't know you could move that fast. That means you won't need to search for the Dragon Balls again, huh? Krillin questioned. That's right. Now, I think it's time I start training for the next World Martial Arts Tournament. Goku stated, clenching his fists in excitement. Well, you and Krillin won't be the only ones because I've agreed to train under Master Roshi too. He agreed to take me as his next student. Yamcha announced happily. Really, that's so cool. We'll have so much fun together. Goku beamed. Yeah. He's going to build me back up from the basics, hopefully. Just don't pick up on any of his bad habits, Yamcha. Bulma warned with a disapproving wag of her finger. Is it wrong to appreciate the female form in all of its glory? Master Roshi grumbled in defense of his pervy nature. Bulma dangerously glared at him. It is when you're a dirty, good-for-nothing old man. Bulma growled. HMPH. Forget I asked, Roshi scoffed. Goku, still delighted over the prospect of training with both Yamcha and Krillin, eagerly looked at both his friends and former master. So, all three of us can train together, right? Goku wondered. Actually, Goku, I have a different idea in mind for your training. If you're willing to accept it, that is. Baba interjected from the sidelines. Goku tilted his head to the side curiously. A different idea? How so? What if I told you that there's another Earth entirely separate from this one? And this world has plenty of strong opponents who could give you a proper challenge. Baba cryptically intrigued. Goku felt confused by this, but nonetheless, continued to follow along as best as he could. Another world, huh? You mean like the one Grandpa was brought back from? Baba shook her head. Not exactly, kid. Otherworld is the afterlife of our universe, not a planet. I'm talking about something just like where we're standing, but completely different. This is the first time I'm hearing about something like this. What's this other Earth or whatever called? Yamcha questioned in disbelief. It goes by a few names depending on the language, but most people there call it Earthland. Baba responded. Bulma blankly stared at the witch. Earthland. Seriously? They couldn't come up with something more creative than that. I didn't come up with the names, young lady. My brother and I were just born there, believe it or not. Baba casually unveiled with a small shrug. How everyone else collectively gasped in unison. Master, you're from another world, Krillin stammered in befuddlement. Not used to being put on the spot like this, Roshi nervously adjusted his sunglasses. Not entirely, but yes. I was only just a baby when we traveled here. A baby? Then, how old was Baba? Bulma gaped as she slowly darted her eyes toward the Fortunatler. 200 years old, give or take. Look pretty good for my age, don't I? Baba sniggered in response. This impressive age further bemused the entire group, apart from Goku. He was still wondering what this all had to do with him getting stronger for the tournament. Considering you should be a pile of dust by now, then yeah, I guess so, Yamcha muttered under his breath. Baba, overhearing this comment, was not amused. Don't make me bring out bandages again. Baba threatened sternly. Not wanting to be humiliated by that mummy again, Yamcha just stood up straight and nodded his head. Sorry ma'am. Yamcha weakly apologized. Glaring at him one last time, Baba then cleared her throat. Anyway, Earthland is home to a slew of powerful magic users such as myself. These witches and wizards typically inhabit magic guilds where they can partake in various job requests for profit. And most requests do require a high level of combat efficiency, much like Goku has. She looked up, fondly remembering the moments of her youth as they took place many centuries prior. One significant positive during those days was the fact that she didn't have a pervy younger brother to take care of. I lived in Earthland during a much different time than it is now. Back then, I was known as Baba Yaga and had a fearsome reputation for my magical abilities. I don't mean to brag, but I was quite talented at divination and formed my own business here as a result of it. Baba smirked as she gestured to her entire palace. Very humble as always, Baba Master Roshi commented sarcastically. HMPH, whatever. Now, despite myself living on Earth, I did utilize a bit of dimensional magic to see how things were going back home. In my travels, I've run into one notable guild more times than I would have liked. And what a guild was that? Goku naively asked. The guild I'm referring to is called Fairy Tail. It's really only been around for about 92 years, but their members did leave quite a big impression on me. Baba described in what could be interpreted as fond recollection. Her expression then immediately turned sour in the next second. Most of them were all a bunch of obnoxious morons who like to fight each other. Bulma grimaced at this brief assessment. That definitely sounded like a group Goku would feel right at home in. The name, Fairy Tail, doesn't seem to fit with that kind of crowd. Sounds more like a ballet group to me. Yamcha joked. It may be a silly name, but each wizard there has been through a lot. Their unabashed loyalty and familial ties give them a particular strength most guilds seem to lack. Baba defended Fairy Tail's credibility. She then outstretched her hand and pointed at Goku. That's why I believe Goku's training would be in good hands there, especially during the time before this tournament begins. Baba expressed determinedly. Goku stood there pointing at himself in uncertainty. The others stared at him, curious to find out what Goku's final decision would be. Well, gee, I don't know. From what you told me, they do sound pretty strong. Goku mumbled whilst scratching the back of his head. Not all of its members are, admittedly, but there's bound to be kids around your age there. Learning more about magic from them and more experienced mages could help with the enhancement of your inner Kai, I'm sure. Baba persuaded the boy to consider her offer. Goku rested a hand over his chin, trying to decide what course of action was best to take. He looked up at Master Roshi for guidance. What do you think, Gramps? Do you think this fairy tale place will help me out? Unfortunately, my boy, I'm not the one who can make that decision for you. You're on your own now. On my own? Goku repeated obliviously. Yes. Since you're already such a great fighter, there's nothing else left for me to teach you. From this day forth, you must discover your own path as a martial artist and continue to get even better than before. Roshi wisely advised. I guess you have a point. I do want to get a whole lot stronger, but… Then, go out and see more of the world, Goku. This world is vast and strange. Countless adventures await you, even if they don't take place in the one you're standing in at the moment. Whether it be Earth or Earthland, you must utilize every new part of your journey as an opportunity to learn. The turtle hermit continued to motivate his former pupil. Regardless of what decision you end up making, I'm certain you'll grow stronger and come back to amaze me. Baba and the others looked upon Roshi in awe, surprised he was able to concoct such a motivational speech. Smirking, he rested a hand on his hip in pride. Ho-ho. I'm sure the boy was blown away by that incredible speech. Looks like I've still got it. Roshi thought confidently. He looked down at Goku, who currently had his jaw agape in either admiration or ignorance. Unfortunately for his old master, it proved to be the latter. You lost me about halfway through, but I think I get what you're saying, master. Goku chirped. Surprised, Roshi fell flat on his back in considerable disappointment. Gee, glad I could help. He grumbled. He hoped that Goku at least got the basic gist of his speech's meaning. Goku then walked in front of Baba, smiling. I think I'll go with your offer, Baba. Exploring a new world with these fairy tale guys might be pretty fun. I'm glad I could be of service. Consider it an extra consolation for me bringing back your grandfather. Baba said. Not sure what that means, but okay. Goku chirped obliviously. Lowly sighing in response to his severe lack of intelligence, Baba floated closer to her palace. We'll make the trip to Earthland as soon as you're ready. The elderly witch informed. Nodding, Goku then took the time to bid farewell to his friends. Well, I guess we'll meet at the next tournament in 3 years, Goku. I look forward to seeing the progress you'll make with this guild. Master Roshi mused. Okay, master. I'll try my best. Goku replied with an enthusiastic toothy smile. Krillin dejectedly looked down at the floor. You're going to be gone in some alternate world for 3 years, that's going to be such a long time. Goku, detecting the hint of sadness in Krillin's voice, walked over and placed a hand on his shoulder. I'm going to miss you too, Krillin. But, I promise we'll see each other again in the future. You can count on it. The young fighter assured. These words helped the former monk cheer up a bit. Kinda wish I could go with you, but alright. Krillin smiled in response. Make no mistake though, I will be taller than you next time. I'm gonna be growing a bit too, so we'll see. Goku lightly chuckled. He then turned his head to address Yamcha and Pure. Better be prepared, Goku. I'm going to squash you in this next tournament. Yamcha stated with a challenging smirk. Oh, yeah well, I won't go down easy during our fight, Yamcha. Goku smirked back in a similar manner. I'll be counting the days till then. The teenage bandit remarked, pumping his fist in considerable anticipation. Continuing to laugh along with Yamcha for a few moments, Goku finally approached his first and oldest friend. Bulma frowned, mostly uncertain of what she should feel about the situation. So, you're really leaving for a while, huh? She quietly asked. Yeah, I will be. It's going to be hard leaving everyone behind like this. Goku muttered as he lightly stroked the side of his cheek. After all, going to another world isn't something he expected to ever do. It was exciting, yet strange at the same time. Frowning even deeper, Bulma suddenly pulled Goku into a tight warm embrace. His face only reached up to her stomach, thankfully. Promise me you won't get overly reckless then, kiddo. I don't know what I'd do if something bad happened to you on some whole other planet. Bulma said worryingly. Not used to dealing with these kinds of emotions, Goku awkwardly patted her on the back. I'll try to be careful. Don't worry about it too much, Bulma. Goku assured the concerned girl. Though, will you promise to be nicer the next time we see each other? Bulma opened her eyes and abruptly shoved Goku away from her in rage. He just had to ruin the moment. Erg. What the heck is that supposed to mean, idiot? Bulma screeched angrily. Rather than explain, Goku giggled mischievously and waved at everyone from behind. Bye, everyone. I'll catch you all later. Goku yelled. As he ran to catch up with Baba, each member of the dragon team waved back. Bye Goku. Krillin shouted. Good luck, man. I know you've got this training down pat. Yamcha supportively sent out his last regards. Be careful. Pure cried. Bulma, although still peeved by Goku's comment, simply stood there in silence before smiling at his retreating form. He may drive me nuts sometimes, but I'm gonna really miss that goofy kid. He's grown so much since I first met him on that mountain about a year ago. Bulma recalled the events of their first adventure together. Who knew some weird kid with a monkey tail would end up becoming strong enough to save the entire world? She couldn't help but feel a bit proud of herself for discovering him that day. Staring at Goku one last time, Bulma held a hand over her heart and grimaced. Her once fiery blue eyes were now tinged with that of melancholy and ever-present concern. Please try to take care of yourself, Goku, for mine and everyone else's sakes. She mentally prayed for Goku's safety. Nearby, Baba led the aforementioned 13-year-old back to her palace's main entrance. It was a dark room filled with various candles and skeletal guards that held tridents in their hands. Typically, this was where Baba would give out fortunes to paying customers, but her services were closed at the moment for obvious reasons. Goku curiously moved his head around to observe the dark, spacious area. So, how do we get to this Earthland place, exactly? Baba, rather than saying anything, just hopped off her crystal ball. The crystal ball floated in place, slowly moving over to a space between both Goku and Baba herself. Remain perfectly still and you'll find out soon enough, the old witch murmured. Quirking a brow, Goku did as he was told and tried not to move a muscle. Baba waved her hands in front of the ball, focusing as much magical energy into it as possible. It glowed a translucent heavenly white as she began chanting a specific spell commonly associated with divination. Oh, hoi, 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 poi, Baba whispered. She focused her thoughts on the image of Magnolia Town, the city where Fairy Tail's guild hall was first built. Before Goku's very eyes, the likeness of a place he's never seen before was projected onto the crystal ball. Goku gaped in awe. He could see that it was a fairly large town with multiple shops and buildings that were separated by a river. Many people seemed to be living there, proving that Earthland wasn't much different at first glance. Hoi, poi, hoi, hoi, poi, cried Baba as she finished casting the spell. In a bright flash of energy, the crystal ball stopped its projection of Magnolia on Fairy Tail's guild hall itself. It was massive, 3-story building with stone walls and roofs, comprised of predominantly red shingles. There was a bell tower visible on top and an orange banner depicting the guild's trademark symbol. Goku wasn't entirely sure what the symbol looked like, but in a way, it did seem to be somewhat fairy-like in nature. Curious, Goku stretched out his finger to poke at the crystal ball. To his surprise, his touch created a ripple effect, showing that it was now mostly intangible instead of solid. Is it supposed to do that? Goku questioned in puzzlement. Yes, Goku. Baba affirmed with a bob of her head. Normally, I use this crystal ball to see visions of the future, but through my skills in dimensional magic, I'm able to create portals to alternate worlds or even timelines. The latter costs a considerable amount of magic power for me, however. I'm not as spry at this kind of stuff as I used to be. Goku didn't exactly get the whole alternate timeline reference, but nevertheless, he could tell Baba's spell ended up working as intended. That did seem to be the Fairy Tail Guild he was going to, after all. I see. Goku hummed to himself. He darted his eyes from Baba to her crystal ball. Do we just go inside the portal, then? That's the idea. Here, I'll give you a demonstration. Baba answered cryptically. Using her telekinesis, Baba lifted Goku off of the ground and pushed him directly into the crystal ball. Oof. Wait a minute, Baba. Goku's screams of protest were interrupted by the feeling of his entire body getting sucked into the ball. In a matter of seconds, his form rippled inside the glass surface and completely vanished upon direct contact with Earthland. He gets me every time. The old crone sniggered in amusement. Afterwards, she hopped into the ball herself and teleported away. Baba also utilized her skills in dimensional magic to bring the crystal ball along, causing it to quickly collapse in on itself. With that last action, Goku's trip to Earthland was officially underway. Magnolia, X778. Despite having a sizable population of over 60,000 inhabitants, Magnolia was rather calm today. Each of its citizens were merely minding their own business and partaking in daily routines. Whether it be praying somewhere at Cardia Cathedral or buying some magical items from a local merchant, the people of Magnolia were all relatively at peace. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, the birds were chirping, and everything remained perfectly calm. The same could not be said for the members of Fairy Tail, however. Inside their guild hall, chaos of all sorts, as per usual, was afoot. They were either talking amongst themselves in the guild's lunch hall or getting drunk at the nearby bar. Some members were also looking at a board filled to the brim with multiple papers, which were likely the requests Baba mentioned to Goku beforehand. While a few grabbed one of the requests and left to complete it, another person just continued to intently look at each form without moving. It was hard to tell if he would actually accept one of them or not, admittedly. Back at the bar, a short elderly man contentedly sat on top of its counter. He was wearing a strange hat with blue-orange stripes and two ear-like protrusions attached to it. The old man also wore a coat of the same color that was draped over a white t-shirt, which sported a black version of Fairy Tail's symbol in its center. Most noticeably, he had spiky white hair and a bushy mustache to match. This was Makarov Dreyer, Fairy Tail's third and most recent guild master. And given the prominent flush of red on his cheeks, it was pretty obvious that he had far too much to drink. Drinks are on me, everyone. You deserve it after all the hard work you've put into making us the strongest guild in Fiori. Makarov hiccuped as he held up a full mug of beer. Everyone held up their own glasses in kind. Thanks, master. The old wizard was about to take another swig of beer until someone coughed to get his attention. Ahem. Makarov tilted his head to see a young girl standing before him. She had red hair that was tied down into a braid and wore white dress clothes. This outfit was concealed by a plate of metal armor, which came with matching shoulder pads and a sword concealed within its black sheath. Her collared shirt was also tied down by a red bow that nicely contrasted with her hair. Is something the matter, Urza?" Makarov asked. The newly revealed girl, Urza Scarlet, sniffed in displeasure as she jerked a thumb to another portion of the guild. "Natsu and Grey are fighting again. You want me to stop them?" she pointed out. Makarov tilted his head to get a better look at what was going on. As Urza described, two boys were currently butting heads with each other. One had spiky pink hair with a white scarf and red long-sleeved shirt. The other had short disheveled black hair with, weirdly enough, no shirt at all and a pair of black shorts. His guild mark was dark blue and placed on his right pectoral. "What did you just say to me, Ice Breath?" Natsu shouted with tightly clenched teeth. "Do you need your ears clogged out or something? I said your dumb fire has nothing on my maker magic and that's just a fact." Grey growled back. "Oh, yeah? You wanna bet, you stripping weirdo," the fiery boy shouted. Grey smirked and crossed his arms. "Heh. That's the best you got. I'm fully clothed right now, so that comeback doesn't even work." Grey chuckled at his longtime rival's expense. Seated at a table close by, a girl with brown hair tied down into a ponytail watched their argument take place. She was wearing an orange dress with thin, red straps that looped around her shoulders. Known as Kana Alberona, she looked upon Natsu and Grey's altercation in relative boredom. She glanced at Grey while nonchalantly sipping some juice from a straw. "Actually, Grey, you haven't been wearing a shirt for the past 5 minutes, Kana corrected him. Grey looked upon her in shock, being none the wiser to this fact. Huh? He peeked down to see that he did indeed have no shirt on. Aw, crap. This is getting ridiculous. Groaning in frustration, Grey shook his head and directed all of that anger towards Natsu. Whatever. Let's just settle this, Pyro. I'll take you down easy. Grey cockily grunted. He placed a fist in his open palm, causing a blue magic circle to begin forming. Famous last words. Natsu spat. He slammed his fists together and engulfed them in brilliant orange flames. The two then dogpiled on one another, resulting in both flames and shards of ice flying about in all sorts of crazy directions. Their mobile torrent of punches and kicks eventually brought them over to nearby tables, even if other members were currently sitting in them. Hey. Watch where you're going, guys. Mikao Konbold, a 30-year-old wizard with short blue hair, warned. Unfortunately, his warnings weren't properly headed as his table was flown up in the air by the quarreling Natsu and Grey. This both resulted in the table shattering to pieces and drink spilling all over Mikao himself. He slumped his shoulders in dismay. Guess I shouldn't have even bothered. As Natsu and Grey's fight got progressively worse, Urza squinted her eyes at Makarov and gestured to them. "Those morons are going to wreck the whole guild hall at this rate. Say the word, master, and I'll put them in their place as always." Urza sternly advised. Makarov raised his hand up as a sign for her to stop. Now, Urza. Those two are growing boys. Expressing their rivalry like this is perfectly normal behavior for them. If you say so, master, but I strongly suggest that. Just leave them alone for the time being. The old man calmly instructed. Who knows? Maybe something else will cause themselves to stop their incessant bickering. As if upon command, a blinding flash of light appeared in the very center of the lunch hall. Natsu and Gray, still in mid-punch, abruptly paused to see what the heck was going on. Everyone else, including Makarov, did the same and viewed this strange phenomenon in concern. They've all experienced strange magical activity, of course, but having one infiltrate the guild so easily was a much different story. The light dispersed to reveal a larger-than-average crystal ball. It floated in place for a while before roughly spitting out Goku. He face-planted straight into the wooden floorboards, much to his chagrin. Baba, in contrast, floated out of the crystal ball and sat atop it once more. Oh. You should have given me a warning about that, Baba. Goku whined in pain. He picked himself off the floor and brushed away excess dust from his clothes. Sorry, kid. I just couldn't help myself. Ho ho. Baba laughed amusedly. The wizards of Fairy Tail looked upon the duo in relative silence. Urza, however, was especially intrigued by the spiky-haired boy who looked to be around her own age. The boy? Why would he come out of a crystal ball that way? It's very strange. Urza thought in bemusement. She hoped her newfound curiosities would be answered sooner than later. Makarov, although he hadn't seen much of her since Precht was the guild master, instantly recognized the likeness of Baba Yaga. He crossed his arms and lightly grinned. HMPH. This is a nice surprise, Baba. It's been a pretty long time since you last visited. Makarov greeted the old witch. Baba waved him off with her hand. We'll save the reunion for later, Makarov. At the moment, I have an important proposition to discuss with you. A proposition, And what might that be? Makarov inquired. Normally, he would have been displeased with an unannounced meeting like this, but with such an explosive, mysterious entrance, Baba was definitely here for a good reason. I want you to bring this boy in as a member of Fairy Tail. Baba requested in a serious tone. She then knowingly pursed her lips. You might find that he looks somewhat familiar, I believe. Makarov, at first, didn't know what Baba was implying with this, but once he got a good look at Goku's face, his eyes widened considerably. His spiked black hair had a striking resemblance to one of Fairy Tail's most widely kept secrets, apart from the infamous Lumen Histor. Hey, guys. The name's Son Goku. It's nice to meet you all. Goku kindly greeted Fairy Tail's members with a peace sign. Just by his light-hearted greeting alone, Master Makarov could tell that this boy would make things in the guild much more interesting. His connection to the lost founder of Fairy Tail was proof enough of that fact. Makarov brought Goku and Baba into his office to discuss their current predicament in a more private setting. Considering how awkward of a response Goku's initial greeting received, the old man thought it best to give the boy a proper introduction. He didn't want him to feel uncomfortable on his first day at the guild, after all. He sat down in front of his desk, which, surprisingly, was filled with stacks upon stacks of unread paperwork. Goku's quirked a brow at the mere sight of these papers. That's a whole lot of papers. Goku commented in surprise. You can ignore those. I get so many damn bills to pay for damages that it's practically normal at this point. Groaned Makarov as he massaged his aching forehead. Baba smirked. Seems that power comes at a heavy price, doesn't it? HMPH. Tell me about it. These kids really don't know their own strength sometimes. Makarov chuckled. But, never mind that. We have more important things to chat about. The guild master cleared his throat and clasped both hands together. Displaying a more serious expression, he slowly darted his eyes from Baba to Goku. Now, explain what reason you have for Goku here joining Fairy Tail. Makarov demanded in a calm, curious manner. It's simple, really. Goku previously studied martial arts under my brother, Rashi, and now, he's reached a level of power that greatly surpassed the old Coot. Not only did he manage to play second in a past world martial arts tournament, he also single-handedly dismantled an evil organization called the Red Ribbon Army before they could succeed in taking over the world. Baba explained the young martial artist's prior accomplishments. Surprised, Makarov took another look at Goku in sheer amazement. It seemed that his resemblance to the lost founder, Bardock, was more than just physical. That's quite impressive for a kid his size. Tell me, my boy, how old are you? He asked. 13, Gramps. At least I think so. Goku replied in uncertainty. He counted on his fingers for a moment before enthusiastically nodding his head. Yep. That's right. Baba pinched the bridge of her nose in embarrassment. Intelligence clearly wasn't his strong suit, much like a certain perverted hermit she knew. I see. Quite impressive indeed. Makarov hummed to himself. He found it somewhat coincidental that a kid this skilled was close to Urz's age. Maybe the two of them would get along somehow. So, if what you say about him is true, is there really anything else he needs to learn here? Goku sounds like a supreme force to be reckoned with already. The old man logically pointed out. He is, obviously, but for a hard-ass fighter like him, there's still plenty room for improvement. And Goku wishes to keep growing stronger for the next tournament in about 3 years. Baba informed. She then furrowed her eyebrows and intently stared at him. Given your guild's reputation as the so-called strongest guild in Fiori, I figured Goku could benefit from being around people who use something other than Kai to fight. She said. The old witch then displayed a mischievous grin. Or is that title outdated nowadays? Makarov stared Baba down, taking a deep yet shaky breath. Despite her age, Baba proved to be a master at getting under people's skins, even in the face of a wizard saint like Makarov. He abruptly coughed to regain his composure. I'll have you know that it isn't outdated by any means. I'm proud of all that my children have accomplished thus far. Adjusting the position of his chair, Makarov fully addressed Goku with a kind grandfatherly smile. Well then, Goku. Let me hear what you have to say about this. Do you wish to continue growing stronger as Baba claimed? He inquired. Goku, sporting a more determined expression, nodded in confirmation. Yeah, I do. Master Roshi told me to develop a better understanding of the world so I could improve my skills. And staying in Earthland or whatever could help with that, I think. Makarov examined Goku's fierce glare for a few moments. There was a prominent fire in the boy's eyes that he, admittedly, found a bit inspiring. It somewhat reminded him of the fire dragon slayer he brought over to the guild 1 year ago. In a way, things were never truly the same ever since that moment. He felt Goku could bring forth a similar wave of change to Fairy Tail as a whole. So be it then. I can't ignore the spark of determination in your eyes, my boy. Makarov replied. He then smirked at Goku and gave him a celebratory thumbs up. It perfectly resembles that of a fairy tale wizard. Goku's ears perked up in shock. Really? Does that mean? Makarov interrupted Goku's response to get out of his seat. He walked in front of Goku and warmly held out his hand. Yes. Welcome to the family, Goku. Makarov affirmed. Beaming with excitement, Goku grabbed a hold of the guildmaster's hand and shook it. Aw, right. Thanks, old dude. Goku chirped. Unfortunately, the considerable force of Goku's handshake caused Makarov to be lifted off of the ground in an up and down motion. Settle down, Goku. You're gonna toss him clean through the roof at this rate. Baba snapped. Realizing what he was doing, Goku immediately halted his movements and let go of Makarov's hand. Oh, whoops. Sorry about that. I got a bit too excited there. Goku muttered while nervously scratching the back of his head. The discombobulated Makarov shook his head, trying to stop the room from spinning all around him. He then used his desk as a makeshift support beacon and eventually succeeded in sitting back down. Ahem. It's either Master Makarov or just Master Goku. Makarov corrected the naive martial artist. However, before you can officially join, I feel obligated to explain a few things to you. Like what? For one, I believe you should know how magic works in Earthland, especially the continent of Ishkar. The old man said. He crossed both arms behind his back and sported a more serious, tactful demeanor. Magic, as it is known nowadays, is a supernatural force that exists almost everywhere across the globe. Although it was once feared a few centuries ago, magic has gradually become part of everyday life. Makarov began, hinting at the complicated history behind magic's origins. Only 10% of the global population can use magic because it takes quite a bit of concentration to actively manipulate one's magic power. The other 90% comprises of normal everyday citizens. He revealed how many wizards there actually were. Those who can, however, utilize magical particles called ether nano to charge up their respective spells. Now, wizards like myself have a limited supply of ether nano inside our bodies, so once all of it is used up, we'll become powerless in battle. Breathing in air from the planet's atmosphere will eventually bring our levels of ether nano back to normal, though. Makarov then checked to see how well Goku was taking this information. To his displeasure, the poor kid was practically staring into space from immense confusion. The guildmaster sighed. Are you following any of this, Goku? Goku, although his head still hurt a bit, slightly nodded. I think so. Most of what you said was pretty much like Kai, apart from the weird atmosphere thing. Pretty much like Kai, Care to elaborate? Makarov questioned in growing intrigue. From past conversations he had with Baba, he had a basic idea of what Kai was, but still didn't know much about it. The existence of another energy system separate from magic did fascinate him, though. Well, back in my world, Kai basically exists within everyone and everything. Only a select few people can obtain a high enough level of energy to use it in fights, though, much like what you said about those wizard guys. I just thought it was neat how similar they are. Goku noted with a slight shrug. Baba nodded her own head in agreement. Well said, kid. Both Kai and magic can also be altered into different elemental properties, such as fire, electricity, and so on. After leaving Earthland, I was even able to replenish the ether nano in my body using Kai as a partial substitute. Ah, I see. I wasn't aware Kai and ether nano could be melded together in such a way. Quite fascinating. Makarov stroked his mustache in growing intrigue. Mind you, it was far from a walk in the park. I needed to spend hours awakening my own Kai just to do it. Goku should know how tedious that practice is from experience. Baba scoffed. I guess so. I just happened to unlock it after copying the Kamehameha Master Rashi fired at Fire Mountain. The martial artist clarified nonchalantly. Makarov curiously raised an eyebrow. Kamehameha. The Kamehameha wave. It's a blast of energy my younger brother invented as part of his turtle school for martial arts. Goku here managed to make it his own move after training with him. Baba briefly explained. The description of it as a blast of energy further impressed Makarov to an even higher degree. It's truly astounding how much you've achieved so far, Goku. I'm sure your master's quite proud of you. Makarov warmly acknowledged. Goku modestly stroked the back of his head. Thanks. I'd like to think he is. Considering how much you've learned from him thus far, I think the next step here will be to activate your own ether nano and magic power, if Kai is truly compatible with it, of course. The guild master advised from the perspective of a potential instructor. My own magic, Where would I even begin with that kind of stuff? Goku wondered. Before now, he never really pictured himself having those types of abilities. In my experience, honing both your physical and mental abilities is the best course of action to take. The more time you spend in Earthland, the more your own spirit, I believe, will connect with this world's spiritual flow and essence. Makarov recommended him. Goku took Makarov's words to mind and remained still to ponder over them. Baba figured she should add her own 2 cents on the matter to keep him at ease. It's more simple than it sounds, Goku. All you really need to do is keep training and see if any particular changes take place. There's also a chance you might be part of the 90% who can't use magic, so remain cautious of both possibilities. The old witch additionally lectured. Goku grew somewhat concerned by that last remark. But, isn't Fairy Tail a magic-only sort of place? Wouldn't I be kicked out for not having enough ether nano? Don't be so hasty, Goku. I've already accepted you as a member of Fairy Tail, so regardless of whether you become an actual wizard or not, you'll still have a place to call home here. I promised you and Baba that much. Makarov soothed the martial artist's worries. This, admittedly, lifted a significant bit of weight off Goku's shoulders. Though, that does make me curious. Apart from meeting Baba, did you have any past experience with magic back in your own world? Oh, yep. I've had plenty of experience with it. Goku truthfully recalled. He then removed his red staff from its holster and displayed it in front of Makarov. My power pole is pretty magical. It can grow and expand whenever I tell it to. Here, I'll show you. Goku said. He set the power pole on the floor and wrapped both hands around it. Baba grew bug-eyed once she realized what he was about to do. Wait, you idiot. Don't do it. Unfortunately, Baba's warning fell on deaf ears. Power pole, extend. Goku commanded. To Makarov's surprise, the power pole glowed a vibrant red as it increased exponentially in size. He was even more surprised when the magic staff rocketed straight through the ceiling, leaving various holes as it continued to grow longer. Goku beamed at the power pole's handiwork until he saw how much damage it caused. He sheepishly tilted his head to see that the aforementioned staff managed to go outside of the building. Oh. Guess I didn't think that would happen, Goku weakly chuckled. Fa. You didn't think, period. Baba snorted. Goku then commanded the power pole to shrink back down and put it away without another word. Makarov, seeing the damaged ceiling directly above Goku, sported a downcast look on his face, yet felt a bit impressed at the same time. The power pole seemed to be a pretty versatile weapon all around. Well, there's more damages I'll have to go about repairing. I hope this doesn't start to become a pattern with him. I have enough trouble as it is with Natsu and Gray around. Makarov thought in dismay. Where he'd even find time to fix the damn ceiling to begin with wasn't clear by any means. Broken ceiling aside, that power pole seems to be mighty useful. You might even be able to use holder magic with it at some point. Holder magic? Goku asked once more. Ah, right. I almost forgot to mention that. Makarov smacked his forehead in sudden realization. Magic is typically broken down into 2 classifications. Caster magic and holder magic. The first is expelled directly from the body like with Kai, while holder magic requires an external source or weapon to produce magic. You could possibly use that type to transfer magic power into the power pole and access new spells with it. At least, that's my theory, anyway. Goku grew somewhat fascinated by this fact. Before now, he never really thought of transferring energy into the power pole when swinging it around. Acquiring magic could potentially make it even more reliable as a weapon in the future. That's pretty cool. Thanks for telling me, Makarov. He gratefully proclaimed. My pleasure. Was there anything else magical you've come in contact with that I should know about? Makarov inquired. Well, there's a special cloud I ride on called the Flying Nimbus, but aside from that, the real big one is the Dragon Balls. Goku mentioned in a more serious tone. Makarov took notice of this swift change in attitude. The Dragon Balls, you say? They are 7 orange balls with red stars indicating their respective number. When gathered together, an eternal dragon named Shenron will be unleashed and grant a person any wish they desire. These wishes can include resurrecting someone back from the dead, granting eternal youth, or even taking over the entire world. Baba answered with a detailed yet succinct response. Makarov gaped at the elderly witch in awestruck amazement. I had no idea such power was even possible. A dragon being able to grant wishes like that is unheard of in Earthland. Yeah. I had about the same reaction when I first discovered them. Even more surprising is the fact they've only been on Earth for 280 years, yet have left such a considerable impact on the world already. Baba affirmed in dismay. Thankfully, the Dragon Balls have limits to them. Whenever a single wish is granted, they'll turn to stone and won't be activated again until another year passes. Yep, that's right. I have the 4-star ball with me right now. Goku confirmed, bringing out the stone ball from his pocket. He held it out so Makarov could fully examine its appearance. The old wizard leaned forward to look at it from various directions. They're far smaller in size than I imagined. Does this mean you've personally used the Dragon Balls before? About 2 times now, yeah. I met a bunch of good friends looking for them the first time. This blue elf-looking dude, Emperor Pilaf, wanted to get a wish from them, but my friend, Oolong, wished for a pair of ladies' underwear instead. Goku recalled the events of his first adventure. The last part of that journey was basically a blur for him. To this day, he still wasn't sure what happened to make him fall unconscious that night. Makarov could strangely relate to that last part. Ah. This Oolong sounds like a real man of culture. Baba grimaced at her fellow wizard in disgust. It seemed that old masters shared the same perverted tastes for some reason, even entire universes apart. He was a literal pig, you moron. Baba grumbled. HMPH. My point still stands. Makarov smirked with little regret. What happened the second time, Goku? That was my fight against the Red Ribbon Army. Its leader wanted to take over the world with the Dragon Balls, but I managed to stop them before they could. Goku briefly summarized. My friend, Yupa, had his dad killed by one of their members, so after fighting in Baba's tournament, I gathered all the Dragon Balls and wished him back to life. Hearing about this moment, Makarov felt even more impressed with Goku's character. The sheer dedication he had to reviving Yupa's father definitely fit with the ideals of Fairy Tail like a glove. After all, from his perspective, everyone in the guild was one big family to him. I wonder if the Lost Founder was like this as well. He pondered with a small grin on his face. He preferred to keep information about Bardock a secret to Goku for the time being. Knowing that you saved the world twice is all I need to hear at the moment. I'll enjoy getting to find out more about your adventures later on. Makarov said as he got up from his chair and stood next to Goku. For now, it's time you get introduced to everybody in Fairy Tail. That sound good to you? Goku toothily grinned in response. You better believe it. I'm really excited to meet everyone. Haha. I'm sure they are too. Makarov chuckled at the boy's enthusiasm. They both headed for the door until all of a sudden, Goku turned around to address Baba. Oh, I almost forgot. Could you give me a new set of clothes, Baba? This one's a bit itchy from all that shoe guy's dog hair. Goku requested. He began scratching his back to show how uncomfortable this new outfit truly was. Sure thing, kid. Just hold still for a moment. Baba said. She then outstretched her hands and blasted Goku with yellow energy. This yellow energy metamorphosized Goku clothes into that of his typical orange and blue guy. It even came with the Turtle School of Martial Arts kanji as always. Ah. That's much better. Thanks a bunch, Granny. Goku sighed in relief. Although Baba would normally chastise the boy for calling her that, she let it slide just this once. You're welcome, Goku. Now, I believe it's time for us to part ways. Baba remarked with a smile. Hearing this, Goku's face fell a bit. Okay. I guess this is goodbye then, huh? Goku sadly uttered. Seeing this, Baba floated close to Goku and lightly patted him on the shoulder. Don't look so glum, kid. I'll come back to check on you in a few months or so. It'll take a while for me to use dimensional magic again. I hope you understand. Baba promised the young fighter. Goku tentatively nodded his head. Nah, I understand. Make sure to say hi to everyone for me, Baba. I will. take care of yourself. Baba nodded back. She then pointedly glared at Fairy Tail's guildmaster. And make sure you keep a close eye on him as well, Makarov. This boy's a special one. Don't worry, Baba. I'll make sure he feels welcome here in Fairy Tail. Nothing will happen to prove otherwise. Makarov proclaimed from the very bottom of his heart. Good. Send my regards to Pruyusica when you get the chance. Baba said. She hopped off her crystal ball, materializing the projection of her palace within it. You know she's going to be upset you didn't visit her personally, right? Makarov asked. To Pruyusica, Baba was one of the only humans she didn't outright despise. This was mainly because Baba served as her mentor the last time she visited Fairy Tail all those years ago. He wondered if Pruyusica's reclusive nature was inherited from Baba herself in a way. Heh. That's your problem to sort out, not mine. Baba sniggered. A bead of sweat trailed down Makarov's forehead from nervousness. He wasn't looking forward for that particular conversation in the slightest. Oh, hoi, 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 poi. Baba chanted. In a flash of blinding light, Baba once again levitated into the crystal ball and vanished with it in tow. See ya, Baba. Goku said, waving his hand from side to side. Him and Makarov were now the only ones standing in his office. Goku looked down at his feet. It appeared that he was officially alone in Earthland for the time being. Makarov stepped up to the boy and wrapped his arm around him. Come along, Goku. Let's get you introduced to the others. His sadness was partially subsided by the kind wizard's presence. Yeah. Let's go. Smiling, Makarov opened the door to his office and held it open for Goku. Both of them then walked back to the lunch hall. By the way, Master. Who's Pruyusica? Goku asked, trying his hardest not to butcher the pronunciation. An old friend of mine. I don't think it's the right time for you to meet her just yet, though. She doesn't like to be disturbed. Makarov cautiously advised. Goku was about to ask why, but given Makarov's nervous body language, he ultimately just shrugged it off. Building friendships with the other guild members was more important to him, anyway. Fairy Tail was considerably more quiet once the two uninvited quests left for Makarov's office. After the awkward silence that followed Goku's cheerful greeting took place, each wizard in the guild began to whisper amongst themselves. They began concocting strange theories to help explain where Goku and the old woman, Baba, came from exactly. Some described Goku as a potential spy from Phantom Lord, while others came to the conclusion that he was Makarov's illegitimate grandson with Baba. Neither of these bizarre explanations, however, could add reasoning to the crystal ball that spit them out directly inside of the guild hall. It could have potentially been a lacrima, but that only raised far more questions than answers. One table, in particular, was more so focused on Goku himself than his origins or anything else related to that. Seated here were some of the youngest members of Fairy Tail. This included Natsu, Gray, Urza, Kana, and an 11-year-old girl with short blue hair. She was wearing a blue-red shirt and a slightly necklace that wrapped around her neck. This was Levi McGarden, whom recently joined the guild only a few months prior. Urza was positioned directly in the center of her friends. It was clear that she was the one leading this discussion above all else. So, is anyone else here suspicious of this Son Goku person? Urza sternly asked. I dunno. He seemed like a pretty nice guy to me. Natsu casually shrugged. It also didn't hurt that Goku looked pretty strong, especially with that bow staff attached to his back. Don't be an idiot, Natsu. Some kid who teleports into the guild from some weird crystal ball thing isn't worth trusting in my book. It seems way too suspicious. Gray scowled. He narrowed his eyes and intently glared at the entrance to Makarov's office. Natsu threw up his hands in annoyance. Hey, I'm just saying. He was giving out a big smile and everything. That seems friendly enough as far as greetings go. Natsu does make a good point. Plus, Master did say that little old lady visited here before. Maybe she's connected with the guild somehow. Levi assumed based on what she heard earlier. Gray glanced at Levi, frowning. Yeah, but former enemies can visit Fairy Tail too. I bet she's hiding something. Heh. Way to be overly paranoid, Ice Princess. How about you lighten up for once? Natsu mockingly sniggered. Gray abruptly got up from his seat and glared daggers at the fire dragon slayer in question. You got a problem with that, Ash for brains, Gray shouted. Natsu also got from his seat and tightly clenched both fists simultaneously. Yeah. Whatcha gonna do about it, huh? Give me a nice gentle breeze. Natsu shouted back. Oh ho. You did not just go there, you sorry excuse for a. They were suddenly interrupted by the slam of Urza's hand on the table. It was soft, yet still firm enough to make Natsu and Gray jump in surprise. That's enough, you two. Just sit down and shut up. Urza yelled. Both being smart enough not to argue with Urza, the two kids slowly sat back down. They continued to glare at one another, regardless, much to Kana's disappointment. You two need some serious counseling or something. Kana groaned. Natsu scratched his head in puzzlement. What would the Magic Council have to do with this? The pink-haired boy asked obliviously. The others all facepalmed in response to Natsu's stupidity, including Urza. She didn't mean that type of counseling, Natsu, but whatever. She sighed. The armored girl clasped her hands together. I personally think Goku is harmless, but like Gray said, I can't fully put my trust in him yet. There's not much we really know about him, especially his exact reason for joining Fairy Tail of all guilds. Well, that part's not hard to figure out. We are the #1 strongest guild in Fiori, aren't we? I bet Goku just wanted to get stronger here. He did seem like some type of fighter based on his outfit and general physique. Kana noted from what she saw of Goku's figure. Admittedly, a part of her found his goofy smile kind of cute in an endearing sort of way. I suppose that's true. However, if that were the case, why wouldn't he just use the front door like everyone else? Levi asked. He wanted to make a good first impression. Natsu guessed. Urza rested a hand on her chin and thought. Goku did indeed leave a big impression on the guild, but she wasn't entirely sure if it was a good one. She supposed that Master Makarov would be the deciding factor in the end. Despite his perverted habits, Makarov could prove to be a good judge of character at times. This was proven by his discovery of Natsu in X777. I guess all we can do is wait to see what the master says about him. Urza whispered aloud. Within a few more seconds since these words were said, the door to Makarov's office finally opened. Everyone in Fairy Tail suddenly quieted down to see what the guild master would say in regards to Goku potentially joining the guild. He walked to the front of the lunch hall while Goku closely followed behind him. Urza was surprised to see that Baba was no longer floating nearby. She's gone already? Did she teleport away somewhere? Urza thought. She also noticed that Goku was currently wearing a more traditional martial arts guy. This one looked to be more suitable for a fighter than the other outfit did, admittedly. Goku himself felt a bit nervous to see so many people blankly staring at him. He was used to fighting in front of a huge crowd, of course, but standing there in silence was much more uncomfortable. Makarov gave him another grandfatherly smile before addressing the entire guild. Attention, everyone. I have an important announcement to make. Some of you might not take it too well, I assume. It might be tough to grasp at first, but this boy, Son Goku, does not originate from Earthland. He is from a parallel planet called Earth that is similar, yet different in a number of ways. Makarov unveiled Goku's true origins. Not expecting this kind of information, the entire guild collectively gasped in shock. Another planet separate from Earthland. Does such a thing even exist? Urza thought in astoundment. This meant that Baba's crystal ball utilized some kind of magic that could travel from one dimension to another. This further disturbed her, yet also gave some reasoning as to why Goku couldn't just enter the guild in a normal fashion. Natsu was also interested by the existence of another world, but for a different, more personal reason. Maybe that's where Igneel could have gone, Natsu mentally hoped. Ever since his adoptive father disappeared, he's been trying to locate any potential sign of both him and other dragons. This Earth place added a possible explanation for Igneel's departure, thankfully. While magic does exist on Goku's world, it is less prominent than Kai, a source of energy that exists in all life forms there. Goku and many other martial artists have gained enough strength to manipulate the Kai within themselves, in the form of devastating blasts or elemental attacks. You could say it functions much like Ethernano for them. Makarov mentioned the less prominent, yet still significant role magic has in Goku's world. Urza quirked a brow at the mention of this new energy source. She was curious to figure out how powerful these so-called blasts could be compared to magic spells, including her own requip magic. And based on what Baba told me, Goku, despite only being 13 years old, is a powerful individual who has managed to save his world twice within the span of a year. He's even defeated an entire army single-handedly, believe it or not. The guildmaster summed up Goku's accomplishments thus far. Goku modestly looked away with a small grin. I guess it's kinda true when you put it like that. Most of Fairy Tail's older members looked upon Goku in disbelief. Who knew this goofy-looking kid could be capable of such absurd feats? It almost seemed too good to be true, yet Makarov ever so confidently claimed it as fact. It really made them want to see Goku's martial arts abilities in action, even if it didn't necessarily involve magic. Similarly, the younger members saw Goku in a brand new light. It really seemed like he was a guy they could put their trust in, after all. See, Gray. This kid's some kind of hero where he comes from. You think he's suspicious now? Natsu slyly nudged his rival in the shoulder. Gray clicked his tongue and looked away in embarrassment. TCH. I'll believe it when I see it. Nearby, Urza gazed at Goku's smiling face in considerable awe. She could hardly comprehend the fact that the boy standing before her was one of the strongest fighters in his entire world. Considering they were the same age, Urza desperately wanted to witness Goku's incredible strength firsthand. She wondered if challenging him to a one-on-one fight would be the best way to go about this. Makarov then closed his eyes and took a short breath. Now, in preparation for an upcoming martial arts tournament, Goku has requested to train here as a member of Fairy Tail for the next 3 years. And I've chosen to accept that very same request, regardless of him lacking magic power at the moment. He then outstretched his arms, drawing everyone's attention to Goku as he stood there in the center. So, everyone, let's give a warm kind welcome to the newest member of Fairy Tail, Son Goku. Makarov announced as loud and enthusiastic as possible. Although there was some animosity towards Goku at the start, mostly everyone in Fairy Tail greeted him as if he were an old acquaintance of theirs. Congratulations, Goku. Goku beamed and his new guild members a thumbs up. Haha. Thanks, guys. I'm glad to be here. Happy to see that Goku was feeling comfortable, Makarov walked over to the bar and got the attention of its head waitress. She was a beautiful woman with shoulder-length, dark purple hair, violet eyes, and tanned skin. She wore an orange bikini top that accentuated her curvaceous figure and a matching skirt of the same color. A pink wreath was sat atop her head as well. Enno, would you do the honors and give Goku his guild mark? Makarov politely asked. Enno looked down at him and smiled. Sure thing. I'll bring over the stamp right now. Enno said. She shuffled through the bar's drawers while Goku leaned closer to Makarov in confusion. What's a guild mark, Gramps? Goku wondered. It's a stamp on your body that'll show that you're a member of Fairy Tail. It'll look something like the symbol on my shirt here. Makarov said, pointing to the black symbol on his white undershirt. Oh, I see. Is it permanent or something? As long as you stay in this guild, it will be. However, past members of Fairy Tail have been able to successfully remove it once they leave. The old wizard emphasized from past experience. Keeping that last point in mind, Goku saw the bartender, Enna, return with the stamp. She kindly waved at the young martial artist. Hiya, cutie. The name's Enno. It's nice to have you as a member of our guild. She mischievously winked at him. Goku didn't know how exactly to respond to this, but he smiled back anyway. It's nice to meet you too, Enno. Goku said. Where and what color would you want your mark to be? Enno asked. Goku frowned, looking at Makarov's shirt for reference. Suddenly noticing his blue shoes and wristbands, he widened his eyes in recognition. I'd like it to be blue and located on my right shoulder, please. Goku politely requested. You've got it, sweetie. Just hold still for a second and you'll be good to go. Enno giggled at Goku's childish excitement. She leaned over from the bar and pressed the stamp down on his shoulder. As a result, the symbol of Fairy Tail was branded on Goku's body in bright blue ink. He was now an official member according to the rules of the guild. He massaged his shoulder to see how his mark felt. Wow. It feels like it's not even there. Thanks, Enna. No problem, Han. If you need anything else from me, just ask. Enno beamed. She winked at him a second time before tending to everyone else's drinks as usual. That guild mark looks good on you, Goku. I hope you cherish it for as long as you're here. Makarov mused hopefully. I'll be sure to, Master. I think I'm getting pretty used to it already. Goku replied. He chuckled, flexing his right bicep to display his guild mark. Ha! I'm glad to hear that. Makarov chuckled the same way. I'm also glad that Enno's taken a bit of a shine to you. She doesn't act that way with just anyone, you know. Really? I thought she was just being nice. Goku said. She was, of course. But for most other members, she doesn't exactly treat them with the same level of enthusiasm. Makarov grumbled. He then side-glanced at a particular person seated in the lunch hall. I can think of a few notable examples, actually. The person in question was Mikao. He slumped down into his seat, wondering why Enno, his one true love, was giving special attention to Goku of all people and not him. Wakabamine, his best friend, just sympathetically patted him on the back. He sported a pompadour-like head of brown hair and a beige-yellow jacket. His eyes were also covered by a pair of black sunglasses, which were mainly there to show how cool he was. Makarov then shook his head and sighed. Anyway, I'd like you to meet my youngest children. I think you'll get along with them quite well. Goku nodded, fairly excited at the prospect of meeting wizards in his specific age group. Makarov brought him over to the table they were seated at. Alright, kids. I'd like you to introduce yourselves to Goku. Since he'll be living here for 3 years, I think it's best to build a sense of camaraderie with him from the start. Makarov queried in a reasonable tone. Of course, Master. We'd be more than happy to. Urza agreed to follow Makarov's orders. She then turned around and held out her hand. Hello there, Goku. My name is Urza was suddenly pushed out of the way by an overly eager Natsu, much to her growing ire. Yo, what's up, dude, the name's Natsu Dragneel. You happen to see a dragon named Igni Larutuf. Natsu was relentlessly smacked in the head by Urza's fist. Both Goku and, surprisingly enough, Makarov winced at the impact of this hit. You don't just ask that kind of stuff to people you just meet, idiot. Urza growled. Natsu crouched down and clutched his aching head. Sorry, ma'am, the loudmouth dragon slayer stammered in fear. An indignant Urza crossed both arms, blowing a strand of hair away from her face. HMPH. As I was saying, my name is Urza Scarlet. I've been in Fairy Tail for about 5 years now, so it's always a pleasure to meet new members. Urza greeted in a much calmer, considerate tone. Scarlet, huh? Like your hair, right? Goku acknowledged questioningly. Urza paused. She ever so slightly grimaced, thinking back to the days she spent with Jello and her friends in the Tower of Heaven. It was there that Jello gave her that last name, since she never had one before being enslaved. However, it wasn't the proper time to divulge her past to a complete stranger like Goku. She needed to warm up to him a bit more first. You could say that, yes, Urza briefly stated. Well, I think it suits you pretty well. Goku complimented the red-haired wizard. She lightly grinned at this remark. Thank you. I appreciate it. Urza said. Makarov was relieved at the sight of this exchange. It appeared that the two would be able to bond with one another, after all. Anyhow, the kids sitting next to me are Grey Fullbuster, Kana Alberona, and Levi McGarden. Urza introduced each of her friends. She then jerked her thumb at the still ailing fire dragon slayer. And you've already been introduced to Natsu there. Yo, man. How's it going? Grey casually waved at him. Hi Goku. It's really nice to meet you. Levi smiled warmly. Hi there. I hope we can be friends sometime soon. Kana nervously expressed. She twiddled portions of her brown hair as she glanced at Goku. Goku waved at each of them in kind. Sorry if my arrival was unexpected, guys. I didn't want you guys to be nervous around me or anything. It's okay, Goku. Now that we know more about you, you seem to be a person worth trusting, in my opinion. Levi said reassuringly. We still want to see what your powers are like, though. This Kai stuff is the only thing I'm iffy about. Grey gruffly added. Goku thought this was a reasonable point to make. That's fine. I'm curious to know what your guys' magic is like too. Just so you know, we each have our own specialty in magic. We'll go into a bit more once you go on a few missions with any of us. Urza elaborated on the types of magic each guild member used. The reference to these missions caused Makarov to come up with a clever idea. He then looked over to the request board, which currently wasn't being looked at by anyone. Speaking of that, I was wondering if you'd be able to give Goku a tour around the guild hall, Urza. This includes the request board, amongst other things related to the entire guild. Makarov knowingly requested Urza's services. She rested a fist against her cheek in uncertainty. I'd be more than willing to do it myself, but some of this paperwork really needs to get done. I don't want the Magic Council storming in here, after all. Makarov gulped in concern. He shivered just thinking of the Magic Council's goons filing another complaint against Fairy Tail. Seeing the pleading look in Makarov's eyes, Urza sighed. I don't see why not. There's not much else I'm doing today. Makarov bowed as a sign of gratitude. Thank you, my dear. I'll leave you to it then. Thanks for everything today, Master Makarov. Goku happily thanked the old wizard. No thanks necessary, my boy. Let me know if there's any other questions you have when it comes to magic, earth, land, training, or all three. I'd be more than happy to oblige. Makarov then walked away and, to his immense displeasure, headed back to work. Having fun at the bar would have to wait, unfortunately. After watching Makarov take his leave, Urza rested both hands on her hips and stared down at Goku. His black eyes were directly at level with her stern brown ones. Well, let's get down to business then, Goku. As Master instructed, I'm going to show you how the request board works. Urza said. She then walked in front of the martial artist and motioned for him to follow. Follow me. She instructed. Not wanting to waste any more time, Goku and Urza walked over to the request board while everyone else stayed behind. Aw, man. I was going to ask if Goku wanted to fight me, Natsu grumbled as he slowly stood back up. Grey, Levi, and Kana began to laugh at him in unison. What? I was. He grunted irritably. Natsu then sat back down and watched as Goku accompanied Urza on their small tour. He could feel a fire burning in his belly just thinking of the power Goku potentially had. He'd just need to find the proper time to challenge him directly. Once he reached the request board, Goku looked upon it with a sense of curiosity. It didn't look like anything special. It was merely a large wooden frame filled with various flyers and posters. These posters displayed images relating to a specific request and the exact reward offered for completing it. He did, however, notice that certain papers were separated into different categories from one another. One category displayed much higher amounts of money than usual for some reason. Urza, noticing that Goku's focus was trailing off, abruptly cleared her throat to get his attention. Ahem. Goku suddenly looked up in surprise. Oops. Sorry Urza. I was just looking at the huge numbers some of these papers have. That's quite alright, Goku. It's normal that you'd be interested in the amount of money offered for completing these jobs. I was when I first joined the guild too. Urza said in understanding. Is job another word for these request stingies? Goku asked while gesturing to each of the papers posted on the board. Although somewhat displeased by the way he phrased that sentence, Urza nodded her head in confirmation. Correct. Mages of any guild typically glance over the request board and complete jobs for clients who are in need of service. After completing these jobs, clients will give us jewel as a reward for our efforts. Urza explained the basic job system followed by every guild. Ah, that makes sense. Jewel is Earthland's version of money then, right? Well, the type of money in Fiori, specifically, but yes. Other kingdoms and continents have their own currencies that are slightly different from ours. Urza briefly elaborated. Goku lightly scratched the side of his face in puzzlement. Other continents, huh? That's interesting. Back home, I think my master mentioned that the world was all just one large landmass ruled by a single old guy. He called him King Furry or something like that. Intrigued by this information, Urza turned around to look at the boy. It was fascinating to learn about another world completely distinct from Earthland. Oh? A supercontinent ruled by a single king and no one else? She wondered. Yep. The whole world used something called zeni as a form of money there. Goku replied informatively. A universal currency was a concept the young mage couldn't begin to comprehend. The implications behind a global government itself were quite hard to swallow, but considering Goku's naive nature, she figured he wouldn't have much knowledge about its history. She'd have to ask Baba about it once she returned. I see. With that type of government, it seems like there wouldn't be much conflict in your world. Urza thoughtfully assumed. A world without the threat of slavery or war did seem amazing from her perspective. Although Urza's inference had some truth to it, Goku ultimately shook his head in denial. I wouldn't say that. There were still a ton of evil people I had to fight. The Red Ribbon Army jerks were especially up to no good. Goku tightly balled his fists just thinking of all the horrible things they did. The actions of the cold-blooded assassin, mercenary Tao, were particularly unforgivable in his eyes. Urza lightly frowned and asked, was that the army master Makarov said you defeated all by yourself? Yeah. They had hundreds of soldiers at their base, so it took everything I had to stop them all. Their leader even fought me in a big robot suit of all things. Goku recalled the events of his final confrontation with Staff Officer Black and the battle jacket. The redeeted mage wasn't certain what Goku meant by a big robot suit, but she assumed it had something to do with his world having much more advanced technology than Earthland. Exactly how advanced was something she wished to find out later on. Still hard to believe that you're only 13 years old. Anyone else our age wouldn't even dream of facing such a massive threat by themselves. Chuckled Urza in astoundment. Actually, I just turned 13 a few days ago. I was 12 during most of my fights with the Red Ribbon Army. Goku revealed his exact age. Urza nodded, figuring that he must be slightly younger than her by a few months or more. Regardless, my point still stands. Your strength is undeniably impressive. She said. Thanks. I'm sure you're pretty strong too. Goku stated, basing his observation on the high amount of energy Urza had. This might have been magic power, of course, but it still felt promising in a sense. HMPH. You'll find out soon enough, hopefully Urza muttered under her breath, smirking. She then adjusted her hair and looked back at the request board. Anyway, as I was saying, the amount of jewel you earn depends on the job's specified rank and difficulty. Urza continued to explain. She then gestured her hand to the request board's different sections. For this reason, jobs are broken down into 5 individual categories. There's normal jobs, S-class jobs, SS-class jobs, 10-year jobs, and 100-year jobs. The latter 4 can mainly be found on the guild hall 2nd floor. As she pointed out each category, Goku noticed that the amount of jewel became higher and higher the further it got from normal jobs. What do you mean by S-class jobs, Urza? Those jobs can only be completed by wizards with the S-class rank bestowed upon them. S-class wizards are exceptionally powerful individuals who are considered far stronger than other members of the guild. Due to this immense strength, they're the only ones skilled enough to take on the most dangerous missions, some of which could result in death under more extreme circumstances. Whoa. They sound really tough. Are there any guys in Fairy Tail with that rank? Goku questioned excitedly. Apart from the master himself, only 2, but one of them has been away on a mission for some time. The rest of us, including me, are still working to achieve that rank. However, Makarov's grandson, Laxus, is planning to take the S-class trial later this year. Urza briefly informed. I didn't know Gramps had a grandson. Goku murmured in surprise. He's currently out on a mission with his team, the Thunder Legion. You'll meet them all eventually, along with his father, Ivan, the second S-class mage I referenced. I believe he's on business somewhere as well. Goku would have a hard time remembering all of these names, but nevertheless, he understood mostly everything Urza said so far. Would you say they're all super strong? Goku wondered with the utmost enthusiasm. Urza simply rolled her eyes in response. Yes, Goku. I'd say they're all fairly strong in their own ways, especially Laxus and his dad. Urza sighed. Hearing this, Goku pumped his fist in evident anticipation. That's good to know then. I can't wait to meet all of them. Yeah. Right. I'm sure you are. Urza sarcastically chuckled. So, aside from these S-class jobs, what are the other categories like? There's not much to say, unfortunately. SS-class jobs are even tougher than normal S-class jobs, while 10-year jobs and 100-year jobs dwarf both of them in terms of absolute danger. The latter have been available for a set amount of years, yet have never been completed. Most of those who set out to complete them, in fact, never return alive. Urza warned in a deadly serious tone. Ironically, Goku's response was far from having the same level of seriousness. Now, those sound like fun. Maybe I can go on one of those 10-year or 100-year jobs someday. Haha. Goku laughed at the prospect of such a dangerous mission. Not expecting this, Urza's body shook in rage before she powerfully smacked him across the head. Don't be a moron. Did you even hear what I just said? She hissed angrily. Oh. You didn't have to take what I said so seriously, Urza. Goku whined as he massaged the prominent bruise resting on his scalp. Well, you shouldn't take these 100-year jobs so lightly, Goku. Countless mages have lost their lives trying to complete them, some of which probably had far more experience in combat than you. Understand. Urza chastised the boy on his error in judgment. He then apologetically glanced down at the floor in sudden regret. Yeah. I understand, Goku whispered. Once she could tell Goku got the message, Urza's expression and tone ever so slightly softened. Right then. For a new member like yourself, I recommend starting out with any of normal jobs posted here. You just need to get it approved either by Enno or Makarov and you'll be good to go. Urza exclaimed with a light grin. I get that you're powerful, Goku, but during your stay at Fairy Tail, you'll need to complete some smaller missions in order to make a living for yourself. You do need to eat, after all. Coincidentally, Goku's stomach loudly roared in response to the brief mention of eating. It was extremely loud, causing everyone to look around the guild in a mix of confusion and alarm. Speaking of which, I'm getting kinda hungry, Goku sheepishly mumbled. He began to rub his stomach, an action that Urza felt a bit agitated by. Really? You can't wait until after I'm done showing you around the guild? Goku slowly shook his head. I don't think so. I haven't eaten anything since Baba sent me here. Assuming that this equated to a few hours at most, Urza crossed her arms, sighing. Fine. I suppose I can show you more of the bar and kitchen area, she relented. The female mage then directed Goku back to the guild's bar, pointing out some of its main features as they both sat down. For members of Fairy Tail who are older than us, the bar is mainly used for leisure time. Food and beverages are prepared in the kitchen back there by Enno, the guild's longtime waitress. She usually takes orders and passes them out to each of the lunch hall's tables. As I mentioned before, you can also get lower ranked jobs approved at the bar if Makarov isn't available. Urza explained. In a way, she was a bit famished herself, so this short lunch break didn't seem too bad. Spotting Enno, she waved a hand to get her attention. The waitress went over to both kids with a kind smile etched on her lips. How can I help you guys? She inquired sweetly. Urza nonchalantly jerked a thumb at the boy sitting next to her. Goku here's a bit hungry, so just put anything he orders on my tab. I'll make sure to cover it. Goku looked at Urza in surprise. The last time someone covered his entire meal was Master Roshi a few months back, so Urza suddenly offering to do it caught him off guard. Are you sure about that, Urza? I think you're underestimating how hungry I can get. It's my treat, Goku. Consider it a small welcoming present for your first day at the guild. I have more than enough fuel from my previous jobs, believe me. Urza kindly assured him. Delighted at the prospect of eating tons of food, Goku beamed in absolute delight. That's real nice of you, Urza. Thanks. He said. Urza just smiled back and looked towards Enno. I'll have the usual, Enno. It's been ages since I've had a strawberry cake all to myself. She requested. Her mouth was starting to water just thinking of the dessert's exquisite taste and delectability. Enno nervously grinned at this reaction. She just hoped Urza wouldn't get any excess drool on the countertop. Coming right up. Enno smiled in reply. She then leaned forward to ask Goku what he'd want to eat. And what would you like, handsome? Tell me anything you want on this menu and I'll cook it. She handed Goku a small booklet filled with various options for food and drinks. Despite the fact that he didn't really read that much, Goku took time to glance through the menu, regardless. Goku hummed as he rested a hand over his chin. After a few seconds, he finally came to a decision. "I'll have a little of everything, please." Goku shouted out. Urza, Enno, and the other mages of Fairy Tail all stared at Goku in complete disbelief. "A little of what now, you can't be serious." Urza stammered incredulously. She was beginning to pray for the safety of her poor wallet at this point. "Nope. I'm completely serious. I did tell you not to underestimate how hungry I was, Urza. 'Cause when I'm hungry, I'm really, really hungry." Goku reminded her in an uncharacteristically serious tone. But it's just not possible. No matter how big of an appetite you have, no one can take in all of this food by themselves. You'd blow up like some kind of living hot air balloon. Urza cried, trying her best to reason with Goku's asinine-eating habits. "Then, I guess I'll just have to help him out then, huh?" Urza and Goku swiveled around in their seats to see Natsu standing before them. He sported a confident, challenging smirk as he folded one arm over the other. "Oh man. This ought to be good," Gray groaned. He had a feeling the situation was about to become an even bigger mess. "Now's not the time, Natsu." Urza sighed. "Look, just hear me out. Since Goku wants to pig out on all the food here, I have a little challenge for him," he proclaimed. "What kind of challenge?" Goku wondered in newfound curiosity. The Fire Dragon Slayer rested a thumb on his chest while pointing directly at Goku with another hand. "As one big eater to another, I challenge you to an official eating contest. If you win, I'll help Urza pay for everything on the menu. But if I win suddenly," flames began to enshroud Natsu's hands and body. He then clenched both of his fists together and toothily smiled. "You're gonna have to fight me one-on-one in front of the entire guild. That way, we'll both be able to show off our skills and go all out. Sound good?" Natsu unveiled the final conditions of his wager. Unsurprisingly, Goku looked pleased with this challenge. Fighting with a mage from Earthland could definitely be a good start for his training. "Yeah. I accept your challenge, Natsu." Goku replied with heightened exhilaration. Relieved, Natsu gave him a thumbs up as a sign of approval. "Good to hear. Now, move over to a table and we'll get this party started," he said. Goku then did as instructed and sat in a seat opposite from Natsu's. Like before, Levi, Kana and Gray occupied the remaining seats of this particular table. Urza, on the other hand, stood there and pinched the bridge of her nose. She wondered if continuing the tour without interruption would have been a better option. "Great. Now, I have to deal with two idiots who like to fight and eat," she thought in displeasure. Continuing to sigh even deeper, the Redeed stomped over to the table and sat down in between both competitors. "Just make sure to bring me that cake, Enno. I think I'm going to need it pretty soon." Urza grumbled aloud. "Not a problem. I'll just cook everything else first." I think the waitress trailed off in uncertainty. She then shook her and smiled at the two kids. "It'll be a while, guys, so sit tight and talk amongst yourselves." Before she could head for the kitchen, Mikao suddenly slid into view with a determined look on his face. He coughed, ruffling his spiky blue hair. "Ahem. Do you need any help with cooking the food, Enno?" Enno blinked a few times, mentally trying her best to remember this guy's name. She served him plenty of times at the guild, but he sort of blended in with all the guys who previously attempted to hit on her. "Oh, that's sweet of you, Marco, but I'll just use my magic to speed up the process a bit. Thanks for offering, though." Enno giggled as she shooed him away with her hand. She then left for the kitchen, much to Mikao's immense disappointment. "It's Mikao, but okay," Mikao muttered. He slumped his shoulders in defeat while Wakaba sympathetically patted him on the back once again. "You tried, man. You tried," Wakaba said. The others just looked upon this scene in second-hand embarrassment, wondering why Mikao didn't just ask her out already and get it over with. Goku and Natsu, in contrast, didn't exactly take much notice of what happened. They were too excited for the food and potential fight to really care. Similarly oblivious to Mikao's depressed state, Enno glanced over each of the recipes in her cookbook and then began to dance. She gracefully tapped her feet on the wooden floorboards, causing the pink petals in her floral wreath to slowly fly off. These petals all clumped together into separate sections that were able to prepare multiple dishes and pots simultaneously. The longer Enno danced, the more proficient and manageable these torrents of flower petals became. Some removed plates from their cabinets, placed certain contents in the oven, and much more beyond that. The fact that she was able to dance and cook so efficiently showed how experienced she was as a mage in Fairy Tail. It also made most of the guild's male members, including Mikao, to lustfully gape at her. Although, it didn't help that each movement was causing her large breasts to bounce ever so slightly. Goku was kind of intrigued by Enno's style of magic. He'd never really seen anything like it before. "So, what kind of magic does Enno use anyway?" he collectively asked the group. It's a variant of dancer magic called hula dancer. She uses the movement of her body to control and manipulate flower petals from the headdress she wears. Although it can prove useful for cooking and handling the bar when it's busy, it also has combative capabilities. Urza summarized the functionality of Enno's magic. What kind of capabilities do you mean? For one, she can increase the morale and fighting abilities of nearby allies while dancing. Those flower petals can also sharpen to that of thorns, I believe. Urza explained from what she's heard around the guild. But to be fair, Enno has never really gone on many missions, so most of her skills in a fight are unclear to me. It'd probably be better if you asked her yourself. Alright. I'll have to remember to do that. Goku noted. Natsu yawned and rested his feet on the table. I wouldn't worry about it too much, Goku. It's just some girly dancing or whatever, after all. Enno, overhearing this remark, turned her head to playfully glare at him. Remember who's making your food, Natsu. She proclaimed in what could be interpreted as a small threat. Given the speed of her cooking, it appeared that she was nearly halfway done. Oops. Guess I should have kept my mouth shut. Natsu muttered in temporary embarrassment. The guild would be a much quieter place if you did, Flame Brain. Gray joked with a condescending smirk. Whatever. At least I have the common decency to keep my clothes on in public. The Fire Dragon Slayer spat back. Speaking of which, I know Urza said I'd find out when I go on missions with everyone, but what kind of magic do you guys use? I'm curious to know. Goku said. As if I'd tell you. You'll just have to see all the cool stuff I can do during our fight. Natsu chuckled with a wag of his finger. If that fight even happens, anyway, Kana muttered. She then smiled, pulling out a deck of cards. To answer your question, Goku, I've been dabbling with a type of holder magic called Magic Card. Each card I draw can cast different spells and generate different elemental properties. I can also combine some cards together, but I'm still working on that technique, unfortunately. I've been able to perform some fortune-telling too, if you're interested. That's pretty cool, Kana. You'll need to show me a few of those cards sometime. Goku exclaimed intriguingly. Thanks. I'll be sure to. She replied with a similarly enthusiastic smile. Goku then turned toward Levi, who he just noticed was comparatively shorter than everyone else in Fairy Tail, Makarov included. I specialize in letter magic. Any word I write down can be manipulated using my own Ethernano and magic power. This includes solid script, which allows me to project the properties of whatever word I jot down. Levi explained while pulling out a small pen. So, if I perform solid script. Fire, for instance, she wrote out all 4 letters until the whole word was written out in midair. Then, within a matter of seconds, each one started to burn up like real fire. The letters will burst into flames just like that. Neat, huh? Goku gazed at these letters in amazement until they were abruptly slurped up by Natsu. To his shock, Natsu was able to consume the fiery letters without any pain or irritation. If anything, it actually seemed like he enjoyed it. Thanks for the appetizer, Levi. The Fire Dragon Slayer belched, causing smoke to billow out of his mouth. Confused, Goku attempted to ask Natsu how he exactly did that, but Gray stopped him at the last second. Ignore that. It has something to do with his magic. Gray carelessly informed. As for me, I use a combination of ice magic and maker magic called Ice Make. I can change my ice into a number of different objects and weapons, depending on how much magic power I have. Goku nodded at this, anxiously awaiting the moment he'd be able to witness those abilities in person. How about you, Urza? He figured to ask. Like I told you before, Goku, you'll find out, eventually. I'd rather keep that information confidential until we face each other in combat. Urza stated with a glare that pierced through Goku's very soul. And make no mistake, I do want to challenge you when the time comes for it. You'd be a more than worthwhile opponent, I believe. Goku displayed a determined look of his own, smirking. If there was anyone he'd want to fight next, it would definitely be Urza. There was also Makarov and his grandson, of course, but those prospective battles would most likely need to wait. Plus, it wasn't every day that he saw a girl with such clear interest in fighting. Compared to Kai Kai and Launch's bad side, Urza seemed to be a nice change of pace, which made a fight with her all the more exciting. I'm down to fight you too, Urza. I think you'll be a good opponent. Goku respectfully claimed. Glad you accept. For now, though, your first challenge is about to begin. Urza said as she pointed over to the bar. Goku looked back with figure-8 stars in his eyes. In seemingly perfect timing, Enno's waves of sentient flower petals set down multiple dishes next to Goku and Natsu. There was a wide assortment of delicacies ranging from ribeye steaks and hamburgers to noodles and large bowls filled with coleslaw. They kept piling up until every item on Fairy Tail's menu was split between both kids. Looking utterly exhausted, Enno danced for a few more moments before standing up straight to rest. The petals then returned to her floral wreath in a flash of pink energy. She sighed, fanning herself to stop some of the sweat from beating down. She also gracefully threw her purple hair back, much to Macao's visible delight. He almost looked a bit too excited by it, unfortunately. Phew. Now, that was a workout. Eno cried out in exhaustion. She cracked her aching joints and then picked up a single slice of strawberry cake from the countertop. Here's your cake as well, Urza. Eno set the plate down after walking over to the table. Hope you boys enjoy all of this food. I really put my heart and soul into it. Oh, I will, Eno. Especially once I eat it all before Goku. Haha. Natsu laughed as he greedily rubbed his hands together. MMHMM. Everything looks so good, Eno. Goku cried. He shakily reached his hand for one of the plates, but Eno smacked it away. Hold on a minute, mister. You can't eat anything until I tell you guys to. Eno chastised. She then looked up at the clock hanging above the guild hall's entrance. I'll give you guys about 15 minutes to finish all of this up. How does that sound? Mostly everyone in the guild looked at Eno as if she were absolutely insane. Did she even comprehend how many calories all of this food would add up to? Are you thinking straight, Eno? Who in the world could eat all of that in 15 minutes? Wakaba questioned. Well, Goku did casually order everything on the menu, so I'm assuming he's gone through bigger meals before. Eno pointed out. She then lightly grinned when addressing Natsu. And we all know how Natsu is with food. 15 minutes is actually longer than usual for me. Goku further disproved Wakaba's question. He shook his head, wondering if this kid was even human or not. The point taken then. The smoke mage stuttered out. He then sat down and anxiously lit up another cigarette. Afterwards, Eno stood in the center between Goku and Natsu's respective seats. So, I guess the rules for this eating contest are simple enough then. The first one to eat all of their food within the time limit wins. You guys got that? Yep. I think so. Goku nodded. Let's get this started already. I'm starving here. Natsu whined. Seeing that both kids' mouths were dripping with saliva, Eno squirmed a bit and decided to officially start the countdown. Alright then. On your marks, get set. Eno paused for dramatic effect. She held her arm up and then quickly swiped it downward. Eat. Upon Eno's command, an absolute massacre took place. Goku and Natsu relentlessly devoured each of their dishes, causing scraps of food and broken plates to be flung about in various directions. Both of them ate the biggest pieces of food, including a whole turkey, in one giant gulp, so they could move on to the next dish without any delay. Slurps, belches, and chews could now be heard throughout the entire lunch hall, much to everyone's shared disgust. And the worst part was that only a minute had passed since this contest even began. Eno watched this display in shock. She figured Goku was a big eater, but this took the mere concept of eating to a whole other level. It honestly astounded and mortified her at the same time. She just wasn't sure if she needed a barf bag soon. Ironically, Macao's eyes were fully widened to the size of dinner plates. He never thought he'd see the day where someone had a potentially even larger appetite than Natsu himself. Frankly, it was one of those bizarre moments he wanted to remember for years to come, especially once he and Eno had a bunch of babies, of course. He looked back toward a tall, skinny man wearing a white long-sleeved shirt and black pants. He had poofy brown hair and wore a witch's hat that directly matched the color of his pants, albeit with some gold trimming thrown in. The man was seated in front of a blank canvas with his trusty paintbrush, and paints abound. Macao speedily sidled up to him and whispered, "PSST. You might want to sketch some of this stuff down, Riitas." The newly revealed Riitas Jonah, a painter specializing in picked magic, nodded his head. Ooey. He then adjusted the position of his easel and began painting an artistic recreation of the contest taking place before him. Unfortunately for Riitas, this proved to be easier said than done. For one, Goku and Natsu's movements were just simply too fast. Both of them managed to finish up half of their meals at about the 5-minute mark and didn't show any signs of stopping after that point. They just continued trucking along while everyone else had to evade excess crumbs and debris. Poor Levi and Kana had to hide under the table just to keep themselves untouched by said onslaught. Urza, on the other hand, was in her own little world. Even though her wallet's life was on the line, she seemed far too preoccupied with how delicious this strawberry cake was to really care. So yummy. Urza swooned in her head. Her cheeks blushed a rosy red as she took in more bites of the delectable dessert. However, this moment of euphoria came to a sudden end once small pieces of food flew onto her face and armor. Frowning, she set down her fork and glared at the two mannerless eaters. They kept gorging down meal after meal in quick succession, but while Goku maintained a steady, consistent pace, it appeared that Natsu was beginning to slow down. His small body was inflated like that of a blimp, causing his stomach to hang out of his shirt in a fairly unflattering manner. Natsu groaned in pain. "No, I can't stop, I have to keep eating," he gasped in exhaustion. Since there were only 3 plates remaining for him, the fire dragon slayer tried with all his might to reach for a chicken drumstick. "Alright, bottoms up," Natsu mumbled weakly. He managed to successfully stick the whole egg in his mouth, but while chewing it, the boy grew bug-eyed and collapsed onto the table. A bit of drool trickled out of his mouth as he groaned even louder. Goku, in contrast, showed no signs of fatigue whatsoever. With a content smile on his face, he consumed the rest of his food and Natsu's as well. The martial artist then burped and rubbed his bulging stomach in pure satisfaction. Enno, stunned speechless by the bottomless pit that was Goku's stomach, glanced back at the clock. "Huh, what do you know? I guess 15 minutes was too long for him. He ate all of that with 7 minutes to spare." She beamed at Goku and kindly patted him on the back. Meanwhile, Natsu was still struggling to get up from his food coma. "Welp, looks like you won, Goku. Congratulations, sweetie." Enno congratulated him on his victory. Everyone wasn't sure if they should clap or give Goku some kind of medical checkup, but they did so anyway. Rather than directly address these cheers, Goku held up an empty bowl in front of Enno's face. "Do you mind if I have some more, please?" he asked with a big smile. The mages of Fairy Tail, including Enno, all fell on their backs in astonishment. "You want more after all that?" Urza shouted angrily. She was already sacrificing enough fuel as is. She would not stand to lose any more after everything that just took place. "Yeah, don't joke like that, man. I already have to help pay for this," Natsu hiccuped as he slowly rolled himself out of his seat. Goku puffed up his cheeks in frustration. "But, it wasn't a joke. I'm serious, guys." "That's alright, Han. I can make some more food for you around dinner time," Enno promised the ever-hungry warrior. "Dinner? Oh. I guess I can wait till then." Goku begrudgingly complied with Enno's terms. She winked at Goku and walked back to the bar for some cleaning supplies. "Man, this stinks. I was really looking forward to that fight." Natsu stamped his foot on the ground in disappointment. "What do you mean? Aren't we fighting still?" Goku obliviously asked. No. Remember my part of the wager. If I won, we'd be having a one-on-one fight. But I lost," so Natsu trailed off with a downcast expression. Goku crossed his arms in thought, admittedly letting that part of the deal slip his mind. Well, how about we have one anyway? After you were able to eat Levi's fire, I'm really interested in seeing how your magic works," Goku offered. Natsu looked at his new opponent in pleasant surprise. "You're serious? Awesome. Let's go right now." The two boys then headed straight for the guild hall's front entrance, but were stopped dead in their tracks by Urza. "Not so fast, boys. Aren't you forgetting something?" she asked while still eating pieces of her cake. Not having the foggiest idea what she was referring to, Natsu glanced at Goku and shrugged. "Oh right. Thanks for all the food, Enno. I appreciate." "No, not that. The other thing relating to this fight," Urza interjected. Finally realizing what she meant, Natsu impatiently waved her away with his hand. Yeah. We need to ask Gramps for permission and junk. I've got it covered." He grunted. Natsu walked over to the door of Makarov's office and, to Urza's horror, knocked on it with as much force as humanly possible. "Hey, old man. Me and Goku wanna fight each other. Can you let us do it outside?" Natsu shouted loudly. After continuously knocking with both of his hands, an irate Makarov slammed the door open and glared at Natsu. He then grew to the size of a giant with glowing, yellow eyes and stamped his foot down on top of said fire dragon slayer. Goku found it somewhat similar to Master Roshi's 100% full power form in a way. "Blah." Natsu yelped. "Shut that damn racket, boy. Didn't I tell you that I have important business too?" He turned his head to see that all of Fairy Tail was covered with broken glass and splatters of previously eaten food. What in the hell happened to my guild?" Makarov cried out in despair. He shrank back down to further examine the towers of empty plates resting atop a single table. Urza got up from her seat to summarize what happened. To make a long story short, Goku and Natsu ate everything on the bar's menu in an eating contest they set up. Goku ended up winning, but both of their poor eating habits contributed to this mess you see here. "And was there any good reason for this eating contest to happen in the first place?" Makarov asked. "Like I told you, Gramps, it was to decide if Goku and I would be able to fight each other. We just need your approval and we'll be duking it out pronto," Natsu stated excitedly. "Oh, and Goku hasn't eaten in a long time. That was another reason for it." Makarov stroked his mustache in uncertainty. He didn't think Urza's guided tour of the guild hall would stray off course this fast. "My original intention was to have Goku get more familiar with the guild before anything like this happened, but then again, a part of me does want to see what the boy is capable of," he gruffly admitted. The old man sighed and darted his eyes from Goku to Natsu. He then reluctantly nodded in approval of their current bout. "Very well then. I suppose I can spectate your fight for a few minutes at most." However, as the guild master, I will be able to intervene and stop the fight at any point I see fit. Makarov threatened the two in a stern yet considerate tone. Alright. Seems pretty fair to me. Goku responded. Good. You two can go outside now. Just wait for the entire guild to file out the door and your match can start. You can't have a fight between guildmates without the others cheering you on, after all. Makarov ordered in amusement. Tootily smirking, Natsu slammed both fists together and bobbed his head as a signal for Goku to follow. Hey then. Let's go, Goku. He shouted. Right. Both of them then swung open the entrance to Fairy Tail and went outside. They were eagerly anticipating this fight for a wide number of reasons, but the big one was getting an idea of how powerful they truly were. Goku was far superior, obviously, but Natsu didn't seem that far off in terms of potential either. I'm going to have my hands full with those two, aren't I? Makarov sighed in a low grumble. Yes, you are, master. But at least they seem to be getting along so far. Urza said in relief. Are you all that surprised? They're practically the same person. Gray chuckled. Maybe in terms of general attitude and their practically inhuman levels of hunger, but they're still different in their own ways. We'll be seeing more of those differences in the way they fight, I bet. Urza replied in a perceptive manner. With this final thought in mind, Master Makarov pushed open the doors and headed outside. Everyone else in Fairy Tail quickly followed suit as they eagerly anticipated Goku's first fight as a member of Fairy Tail. If Natsu wasn't able to best him in terms of eating abilities, how would the Fire Dragon Slayer fare in a good old-fashioned clash of fists with the martial artist? Urza, in particular, was interested to discover the very answer to that question. It'd be useful information to have when preparing for her own fight against Goku. Magnolia, directly outside of Fairy Tail. Within seconds, the mages of Fairy Tail formed a large circle around Goku and Natsu. While Leno stayed inside to clean up the mess they left behind, Mikao, Wakaba, and other older members were standing on one side of the group. Riitas also sat down somewhere with his easel and paintbrush, preparing to create another painting of this challenge after the first attempt didn't go directly as planned. On the other side, Urza, Gray, and the younger mages stood. Levi, alongside Kana, was currently accompanied by two other kids. One was a 12-year-old boy with spiky orange hair and a purple shirt. He also wore black shorts and was, for some reason, jogging repetitively in place. The other kid standing next to Levi was a 12-year-old with short black hair, a white t-shirt, and green shorts. The little plant stuck out of his shirt as well. These two were known as Jet and Droy, childhood friends of Levi's before they joined Fairy Tail sometime earlier this year. While each kid eagerly anticipated how this fight would turn out, Goku and Natsu themselves were, unquestionably, the most excited by far. They both stared at one another with confident smirks, neither one daring to move their eyes away. Although Goku could tell that Natsu wasn't exactly the most experienced fighter out there, he was definitely given some form of training. What this training entailed was something Goku was eager to discover, especially if it had something to do with Natsu's ability to eat and experience nourishment from fire. During this little stare down, Makarov stood directly in front of Fairy Tail's entrance. He was there to both serve as a spectator and to make certain the amount of damage resulting from this fight was minimal at best. The guild simply couldn't afford to pay off any more repairs. Step back a bit, everyone. I feel that these two might need some extra space. Makarov ordered. Doing as their master instructed, everyone stepped back and as a result, made the circle around both combatants much bigger. You ready to see what I'm made of, Goku? Natsu cockily asked. Yeah. I'm more than ready, Natsu. Goku replied. The two then got into their respective fighting stances. While Natsu squatted down and held both fists in front of him, Goku displayed the Turtle School's trademark pose. His right fist was clenched at his side, while the other hand was shaped into that of a claw. He rested it along the side of his head, an action which caught Urza by surprise. That stance Urza mused in curiosity. What about it? Gray wondered. I've never really seen one like it before. It looks so simple, yet it effectively protects all of Goku's vital areas. She described the utter versatility of Goku's fighting stance. So, it covers everything both offensively and defensively at the same time? Gray asked in surprise. Yes. I think so. Geez. I don't think Natsu understands what he's getting into here. The Ice Make Wizard muttered in slight concern. He might still have a chance. After all, Goku doesn't know anything about Dragon Slayer magic yet. Urza reminded him. Gray slightly nodded his head before they both watched the fight begin in silence. The wind brushed past Goku and Natsu's hair, causing each one to float backward as both fighters displayed their individual stances. After a while, an aura of intent surrounded Natsu's entire body. Makarov remained completely still. His eyes were shut, but once the all-encompassing wind passed over, they opened with sudden ferocity. Begin. But the utterance of that single word, both kids sprang into action. Natsu slammed his fists together, creating a red magic circle with the likeness of a dragon's head in its center. "Let me show you what a fire dragon slayer is capable of, Goku," he shouted. "Fire dragon." Natsu inhaled, puffing up his cheeks as fire gradually built up within his mouth. He then placed both hands over his mouth to gather the flames into a single combined stream. Roar. Natsu fully unleashed this stream in the form of a massive blast of fire. It grew larger in size as it headed directly toward Goku. "Whoa." The martial artist yelped. He removed the power pole from its holster and positioned it in front of him. "A staff?" Urza murmured in confusion. As Natsu's fire dragon roar reached its intended target, Goku skillfully spun his magical staff around at unprecedented speeds. "Hi-ah!" he yelled. The flames made contact with the spinning power pole, causing it to be redirected away from Goku's face. This progressed to a degree where the fire dragon roar was completely extinguished. "Huh, no way." Natsu gasped in befuddlement. "I put most of my magic power into that attack." Watching from the crowd, Mikao sighed. It seemed that even after the advice he gave to Natsu about properly conserving his fire, the boy still had a lot left to learn. Maybe this fight would be the proper wake-up call he needed to grow stronger as a wizard. Well, that fire dragon roar thing did look pretty cool, it was a bit too slow. I was able to see it coming pretty much when you first blasted it. Goku acknowledged the flaws of Natsu's spell. Not taking the speed of his move into account, Natsu bared his teeth in frustration. "Erg. That's not all I've got." He snarled, coating one of his fists in white-hot flames. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. Natsu, in spite of his short stature, dashed toward Goku and wound up his fist. Rather than counterattack, Goku just stood there with a small frown. He could already tell that Natsu was running low on magic power after using those two spells. This was evident from the fact Natsu was both panting and sweating bullets from being engulfed in his own fire. As the pink-haired 11-year-old prepared to punch his face in, Goku dissipated into thin air. He seemingly vanished without a trace, much to Natsu's utter disbelief. "What the? Where'd he go?" Natsu stated as he swiveled his body around to look at the entire area. Everyone else was equally confused by Goku's disappearing act, but not Makarov. He was perceptive enough to know it wasn't teleportation magic, high-speed magic, or anything of the sort. It was a direct result of Goku's intense martial arts training. More specifically, the massive weights he placed on his body for many months at a time. Astounding. Goku has become so fast that his movements are practically invisible to the naked eye, even for wizards like us. Makarov presumed in admiration. He glanced at the floor, spotting traces of Goku's body appear in and out for 1-second intervals. Urza took notice of these instantaneous movements as well. She squinted her eyes, trying to pinpoint Goku's current location. "Come on, dude. Just show yourself already and fight me," Natsu rashly growled. Unbeknownst to Natsu, however, Goku had already reappeared. He was positioned right behind the Fire Dragon Slayer, an action which couldn't be properly accounted for. Now, all Natsu could do was spin around and share direct eye contact with him. "Why you were moving around the entire time?" he stammered in realization. Goku simply smirked and stuck his staff into the ground. "Power pole, extend." Grabbing a hold of the power pole as it grew, Goku's fist rocketed straight into the bottom of Natsu's chin. The propulsion of this powerful attack sent him flying in a series of rapid spins as fresh saliva splattered out his mouth. He didn't stop spinning until his head smacked straight into the pavement, leaving a fairly sizable crater in the process. As a result, Natsu was knocked completely unconscious. Goku then let go of the power pole and put it back inside of its container. He winced at the amount of damage he brought upon Natsu and the surrounding area. "Uh-oh. Guess I should have held back a bit more than I did." Goku gulped nervously. Considering the ludicrous amounts of power and speed Goku just displayed, this comment flabbergasted mostly everyone in Fairy Tail, especially Urza. "That was holding back," Urza whispered under breath. Her brown eyes widened to even greater levels of amazement and admittedly, fear. "Yikes. And I thought I was fast." Jet whistled nervously from the sidelines. Levi and Droy both nodded in agreement, looking just as unnerved by Goku's skills. The mages then talked amongst themselves, some of which comprised of conversations discussing how incredible Goku was. In contrast, Makarov just preferred to remain silent so he could mull over the fight's results. "Well, congratulations on winning the fight, Goku. I'm sure Natsu will appreciate you for not going easy on him," the old man said. Goku seemed to have mixed feelings about this outcome. "Thanks, I guess. I still feel kinda bad for hitting him that hard, though." "Ah, he'll be fine. All he needs is a bit of rest in the infirmary. Urza will help you bring him there, I'm sure." Makarov kindly eased his worries. He then winked directly at Urza, much to her initial reluctance. Let's make that the next stop on tour then, Goku. Help me pick him up. Urza instructed. They both walked over to Natsu's badly beaten form and rested him along their shoulders. Makarov nodded at this. Let's all head back now, everyone. He then led all of Fairy Tail back into the guild hall in an organized fashion. Goku and Urza took their time picking up Natsu, so they were the last to come back in. The red-deeded mage grinned down at Natsu's sleeping form. You tried your best, Natsu, but… She glanced over at Goku's calm, yet determined expression. Beneath that light-hearted goofball was a seasoned warrior with loads of experience in battle. In a sense, it was quite overwhelming for her. Goku's on a far higher level than most of us, even myself. Urza sadly admitted. The only thing she could do was try her best to reach that level of skill, regardless of whether it required Kai or Nano. And once she did, Goku would most definitely meet his match in more ways than one. As Makarov suggested, Urza and Goku quickly brought an unconscious Natsu to the guild's infirmary. It was a small room filled with multiple beds and a large medical cabinet in the very back. Curtains were also placed in between each bed to give guests a much-needed space from one another. Urza pointed to the nearest bed. You can set him down here, Goku. Got it. Unfortunately, Goku took this statement as an excuse to toss Natsu right on top of the bed. Urza's eyes widened in horror. Wait a minute. Don't just drop him like a sack of. The Fire Dragon Slayer's body fell off the mattress and hit the floorboards below with a firm, painful smack. However, apart from a few twitches, Natsu kept snoozing away as if nothing happened. Oops, Goku winced. A red imprint could be seen on Natsu's face, much to his chagrin. Urza sighed in annoyance. Idiot. You have to be more delicate in these kinds of situations. Yeah, I know. My hands just slipped for some reason. My bad, Urza. It's fine. Just untuck the covers for me, please. Goku pulled the blue comforter away so Urza could gently place Natsu into the bed. She then tucked the covers back over Natsu's frame and slightly fluffed the pillow beneath his head. Although unconscious, seeing Natsu in such a calm, relaxed state brought a smile to the retired mage's lips. Who knew a guy like Natsu could look so calm while sleeping? Goku asked. Well, he can't be too calm after you punched him straight across the chin, but yes, I suppose it's pretty rare to see him like this. Urza joked amusedly. Yeah, I still feel a bit guilty taking him out like that. Maybe a light chop to the neck would have been better. Urza shook her head. Don't be. Like Master Makarov said, Natsu will respect you for taking him seriously as an opponent. If anything, he'll probably try to challenge you to a rematch as soon as he wakes up. Guess you're right. Goku snickered. He then tightly clenched his fists together, smiling. I'll definitely take him on again anytime he wants. I'm excited to see how much stronger he'll be able to get. Urza sisterly rubbed Natsu's cheek as he slept. As am I. She crossed her arms and glared at Goku determinedly. She was interested in discovering the full extent of Goku's power as well. Anyway, we should give Natsu some peace and quiet for now. We still need to finish our tour of the guild hall. Urza reminded him. She resumed her role as a guide by gesturing to the infirmary itself. As you can tell, this is the infirmary. You can choose to rest here if you face some critical injury or other life-threatening condition while completing a job. Medicine and bandages can be found in the cabinet over there. Goku nodded along until a terrifying thought came to his head. There aren't any needles in there, right? Urza raised an eyebrow. Needles. Yeah. The scary pokey things that doctors use in hospitals. Those needles. Goku shuddered. It was as if repeating the very word sent a shiver down his spine. I suppose there are, yeah. But they're only used for special emergencies, like magic deficiency and such. Urza was starting to grow suspicious. Why do you ask? Goku looked away, scratching the back of his head. And no reason, really. Just wanted to know what to avoid, visit in the future. Urza squinted her eyes, frowning. She didn't buy Goku's explanation for a second. Right then. Let's move on to another room, she muttered. Behind her back, Goku wiped some sweat off his forehead in relief. They quickly exited the room and headed back to the guild's lunch hall. There, many of Fairy Tail's mages commended Goku for his swift victory against Natsu. Real nice fighting out there, kid. That was incredible. Wakaba said. He raised his mug as a sign of respect. I'll say. Even with his lack of experience, Natsu isn't exactly easy to beat. You must really know your stuff. Mikao added. It wasn't all that impressive, but thanks. Goku chuckled. Enough, you two. You can save your comments of appraisal for later. We're in the middle of something here. Urza replied while continuing to walk forward. Wakaba winced. Geez. Sorry we said anything, Your Highness. The red-haired mage then stopped in place to glare at both Mikao and Wakaba. They immediately shrunk in their seats from fear. What was that? She growled. Both adults spun around and pretended to drink from their respective mugs. And nothing. They mumbled. Satisfied with their responses, Urza nodded her head. Good. Follow me, Goku. Goku blinked a few times in confusion. He didn't think a girl like her could be so intimidating. Hinda reminds me of Bulma. He mentally noted. They both seemed to get a whole lot scarier when angry, at least. The two of them then passed by the table. Gray, Kana, Levi, Jet, and Roy were seated. As expected, all 5 kids had some things to say about Goku's fighting abilities. Great job, Goku. The way you used that staff thingy against Natsu was really cool. Kana beamed. Her cheeks sported a faint flush of red, much to Goku's interest. Yeah. I've never seen anything like it before. Levi stated in agreement. PFFT, forget that. His speed was way more amazing. It looked like he vanished completely and everything. Jet pointed out. He then looked toward Goku and jerked a thumb at his chest. You're definitely gonna have to race me sometime. A race? I haven't really done one of those in a long time. But I guess it could be fun. The name's Jet. With my high-speed magic, I'm the fastest mage in Fairy Tail by far. Well, until now anyway. Droy muttered. Jet jabbed an elbow into his friend's side. Shut it, Droy. We'll let our race decide that. Levi sighed as her 2 friends began to bicker with one another. Nearby, Gray drew the martial artist's attention to himself. I'd admit, you're pretty good, Goku. Though, anyone who's strong enough to put all Flame Brain in his place is alright in my book. Gray snorted. His expression then grew more serious. He's doing okay, though, right? You know, Natsu. All he needs is a little rest and he'll be just as energetic as ever. Urza lightly giggled. She slyly smirked at Gray in amusement. Why? Are you worried about him, Gray? Worried? Don't be ridiculous. I just wanted to gauge the strength of Goku's punch. That's all. Gray harumphed with a defiant cross of his arms. Not at all convinced, Urza just kept smiling at him and rolled her eyes. Sure. Whatever you say. Does that mean you want to fight me too? Goku asked in excitement. The Ice Mage raised an eyebrow. Maybe. But I'll do it on my own time. I wouldn't want to end up 6 feet deep in the dirt like Natsu was. That's fair. If you change your mind, though, just tell me. I'm interested to see what your Ice Maker stuff can do. Goku gave him a thumbs up, grinning. Sure thing. Gray nodded. Well, you can worry about that later. Let's keep moving, Goku. Urza instructed. Right. Goku and Urza then walked off to another portion of Fairy Tail, particularly the basement. As they left, Gray observed the back of Goku's orange dogi. That guy really does have fighting on the brain at all times, huh? Gray thought to himself. Well, except when he's eating, I guess. He sighed, looking up at the ceiling. He'd definitely need to get some training done if Goku were to be his next opponent. Recalling some of the lessons taught him would probably work best for that kind of situation. Just thinking about his former master and her unfortunate fate saddened him considerably. Can't believe she's been gone for 5 years, he thought with a deeper frown. If he had never went off to fight that monster, Deliora, alone, she might have still been alive. Then again, he probably wouldn't have gotten the chance to join Fairy Tail and meet so many new friends in the process either. He ultimately shook his head and kept conversing with his fellow guildmates. It was best not to dwell on those thoughts for the time being. Meanwhile, Urza led Goku down the stairs to the guild's lowest level. The basement was a large room filled with stone flooring and multiple wooden tables. Each table sported approximately 2 or 4 wooden chairs, depending on the amount of people being seated at a time. There were also a series of wooden beams that served as connective tissue between the basement's earthen walls. Additionally, multiple barrels and crates filled with supplies were propped against these walls. Tall trees grown from the ground served as additional support for the entire room as well. And this, as you can probably tell, is the basement, Urza said. Goku tilted his head while walking down the stairs. Above him was a wooden sign that simply read, Fairy Tail Basement, in bold black lettering. I can see that. There's not much to show here, really. The basement's mainly designed to hold more people if the guild ever gets too crowded, the redeeted mage explained. She then pointed to a corner located near a stack of crates. There's also another request board down here if none of the missions upstairs catch your attention. Goku walked around to get a better look at the basement's interior. This request board was a bit smaller in size, but it had just as many, if not more jobs posted on it. He nodded in acknowledgement of it before getting oddly fascinated by a cactus growing nearby. So, how did you end up joining Fairy Tail, anyway, Urza? You seem to have more knowledge about this place than anyone here. Goku asked. Urza stood in place, frowning. She hovered a hand over her right eye before glancing at Goku. It's a fairly long story, Goku. I'd prefer not to talk about it right now. She whispered. Thinking about her past was just far too painful, especially when it came to him. The martial artist was surprised by this. Urza, given her tough personality, was the last person he ever expected to look so sad. He wasn't sure how to feel about it. "Oh, okay. Sorry for asking then, Urza. I didn't know." "There's no need to apologize," she shook her head with a small grin. "I'll tell you once you've become more accustomed to life at Fairy Tail, okay?" Goku nodded. "Sure. I can wait. Thank you. But now that we're done with the basement, I suppose the last stop on our tour is Fairy Hills," Urza said. "What's that?" "Fairy Hills is a separate dormitory where most female members of the guild live. It's located atop a hill not too far from here," Urza explained. "That includes myself, Enno, and many others." "Huh. Then where do the guys usually stay?" Goku asked in confusion. "Either in the guild hall or through their own living arrangements. It may seem a little unfair, but given the type of men living at Fairy Tail, you'll quickly understand why the separation exists," Urza noted. Although she held plenty of respect and care for every mage in the guild, certain individuals could get a bit too carried away around girls, especially ones who were considered attractive. She shook her head just thinking of the couple dozen times Enno was hit on or flirted with. She would have been a little jealous if it weren't so annoying. "Not sure what you mean by that." Goku stroked the back of his head in confusion. Urza chuckled at this response. His oblivious nature was quite refreshing compared to Natsu's loud, in-your-face attitude and Gray's aloof, sarcastic one. "You'll find out soon enough. Let's just go." She motioned for Goku to follow her up the stairs. Goku shrugged. "If you say so." With each step, Urza's smile gradually disappeared. She looked down at her feet, unable to think of anything else but the Tower of Heaven and what horrors transpired there. "I hope you're doing alright, Jell. Wherever you may be," the girl thought in regards to her former best friend and fellow slave. Feeling a small tear building up in her left eye, Urza quickly wiped it away and kept moving. Goku, however, was cognizant enough to notice this. He quirked a brow in concern. "Urza?" A few minutes later. Together, Goku and Urza walked up the path leading to Fairy Hills. It was a large mansion made of brick that split into two separate wings. Its roofs took a pyramidal shape that were composed of wooden shingles and metallic support beams. Various blue-white windows were lined along the building's walls in order to indicate where each of its respective rooms presided as well. It was also surrounded by a row of green bushes and multiple trees of different kinds. Right before the front entrance, a large sign supported by two pillars read, "Fairy Hills," in red letters. Both pillars had golden encrusted statues of the fairy tale symbols situated on top. "Wow. This place is a whole lot bigger than I expected," Goku commented in surprise. "It needs to be in order to support so many tenants. After all, Fairy Tail is a very popular guild, Goku," Urza replied. "I wouldn't be surprised if new members join in the next few days or so." "Well, those new members better be willing to pay the 100,000 jewel a month if they want to stay here," someone interjected in a crabby tone. Goku looked up to see a short old woman standing directly in front of the Fairy Hills sign. She had her gray hair tied up in a bun and wore a violet long-sleeved shirt underneath a red vest. This shirt was additionally accessorized by a frilly white collar and a pink ribbon. "Oh, hello Hilda. Didn't know you'd be out here this time of day," Urza greeted. "TSK. What an insensitive thing to say, Urza. I can't laze about this place all day, you know," the old woman scoffed. She then opened one of her eyes to look at Goku. "Wait." Hilda paused to study the boy. Not knowing what to say, he awkwardly waved his hand. "Hi. My name is Goku and I just joined." Her eyes glowed white as she suddenly jumped in the air and pounced on Goku. "Ah!" he yelped. Hilda crawled all around his body like some kind of spider, much to Urza's shock. Hilda. What in the world are you doing?" she cried. The elder sniffed Goku's hair and other body parts before feeling up his chest. Now satisfied with her little investigation, Hilda pounced off of him and stood up straight. "Yep, that settles it. You're definitely not female, boy," she glowered. Urza deadpanned. She couldn't tell that just by looking at him. "This is a women's only dormitory, Urza. Why did you bring this kid here?" Hilda asked. "Goku just recently joined Fairy Tail, so Master Makarov wanted me to show him around. Fairy Hills is the last part of the tour I need to show him and then we'll be done." I see." Hilda nodded in understanding. "Well then, Goku, it's nice to meet you, I guess. I'm the matron of this building, so we most likely won't be seeing each other that much. But considering that you're a boy and all, that's only natural." Goku couldn't tell if her greeting was as intentionally half-hearted as it seemed. "Nice to meet you too, I think." "We won't be long, Hilda. I'll show him a few rooms and then we'll be out of your hair," Urza assured her. "HMPH. You better mess anything up and you might as well quit being a mage." The old woman said while using her most common phrase. That goes for you too. No funny business, you hear? Don't worry. I'll just be going where Urza's going. Goku said. Once again, Hilda stared at him with one of her blue eyes. His words seemed to be honest enough from her perspective. Right. I'll be back in the building if you need anything then. She muttered. The old woman walked through the door to Fairy Hills and slammed it behind her. Goku winced. Yeesh. Was there something I said? No. Hilda may seem strict and stubborn, but she's actually a very kind old woman. She just doesn't like showing it most of the time. Urza said based on her own experiences. Okay then. It's not because I'm a boy, right? Well, Urza trailed off. Even if she wasn't sure what the answer to that question was. I'm sure that isn't entirely the case, but we can deal with that another time. Fair enough. Goku sighed. He then stroked the side of his cheek. Still surprised that she almost confused me for a girl, though. That was weird. Hilda does have her own eccentricities, yes. Urza giggled. Both of them opened up Fairy Hill's brown doors and walked inside. They entered a lobby filled with wooden floorboards and walls made from a mix of brick and another beige-coated material. To the right, there was a front desk with a plant and pink lamp residing on each side. To the left side of the lobby, there was a brown couch, a chair of the same color, and a white table that all stood on top of a green rug with white patterns sewn into it. Behind the chair, there was a small bookshelf with another pink lamp and two plants placed on top of it. There was also a distant staircase leading to Fairy Hill's second floor. Overall, this portion of the building had a compact yet cozy atmosphere. This lobby is usually where us female wizards can rest and talk amongst ourselves. The front desk is where Hilda usually assigns new rooms as well. Urza pointed out. I'm guessing that's where you pay for stuff too, right? That's right, Goku. She confirmed. She then comically clenched her fist in annoyance. Oh, the amount of hard-earned money I've had to waste on this place. I heard that. Hilda called from another room. Urza slightly flinched in fear. Well, let's move along, shall we? Next, Urza showed Goku the dormitory's bathroom. It was a rectangular facility with showers on the right side and a large expertly designed pool on the right. This pool contained a stone statue of a woman that seemingly brought water from the nearby lake and transferred it to the bathroom. There were even massive see-through windows that showcased the lake in all its natural glory. The water looked so clean that Goku felt the urge to just jump in and swim. He prepared to take off his shirt, but Urza stopped him immediately. Stop right there, Goku. This is a women's only building, remember? That includes the pool. Urza reminded him. You can always swim some other time. Aw, but Urza. The water is so nice looking. There might even be some fish I could catch and… She narrowed her eyes. Some other time, Goku. We don't have time to waste. Goku took one last anxious look at the pool before slumping his shoulders in defeat. Fine. Their next stop was Fairy Hill's resource room. Similar to the guild hall's own archive, this place was filled with dozens upon dozens of books for tenants to read through to their heart's content. Even more sections could be accessed via a spiral staircase leading to the lowermost floor. Urza figured that Goku wouldn't take much interest in this type of room, so she tried to make her explanation quick. This serves as Fairy Hill's personal library. The guild hall has an even bigger one, but I didn't think visiting both of them would be necessary. It looks cool, but I've never really read a lot of books, to be honest. Haha. Goku nervously laughed. The last thing I read was some textbook my master, Rashi, gave me during our training. Think he wanted to build up my smarts or something like that. Reading during martial arts training. Sounds like an interesting method. Urza said with interest. It was mainly so I'd have a balanced mind during fights. It might have worked, but I could never really tell by how much. Goku explained. Urza rested a finger on her lips. She recalled the way Goku used his power pole to propel himself directly into Natsu's chin. Although he clearly isn't intelligent, Goku does seem to display an expert knowledge of combat. He had complete control over that fight he had with Natsu, even if it didn't seem like it at first glance. She thought. This mastery of martial arts was the exact reason she needed to remain cautious during her own fight against Goku. He would prove to be, without question, a very unpredictable opponent in battle. Then again, her equipped magic made her just as, if not more unpredictable by a large margin. The question was, should she continue to keep it a secret or tell him firsthand so their fight wouldn't be considered unfair? Urza pursed her lips. She was slowly coming to a final decision. Well, apart from everyone else's dorms, that's all there really is to see in Fairy Hills. How about I show you my room and then we can call it a day? Goku nodded enthusiastically. Sounds good. I'm interested to see what kind of place you live in. Don't get too excited. It's really nothing special. Urza replied with a smile. She walked up the stairs to the second floor and found the door to her room. Unlocking it with a key, the Redeed then walked inside and held the door open for Goku. "Make yourself at home." As Urza proclaimed, it was mainly just like any other room in Fairy Hills. It contained 2 windows, a bed with purple sheets, and an orange-green mat that concealed some of the wooden flooring. There was also, interestingly enough, a barrel filled with a wide array of different swords and other weapons. Each of them were contained in multicolored sheaths, including red, green, magenta, and many more. Along her bed, Urza had a stand where she could place her suit of armor before going to sleep. It, as far as rooms went, served its purpose well. "That's a lot of swords." Goku exclaimed in awe. He tried to pull one of them out, causing Urza to smack his hand away. "Don't touch. I like to keep all of my weapons in good condition," Urza said. "But won't you be using them on missions, anyway?" "Yes, but that's different. I always keep my swords newly refurbished after a job is completed," she explained confidently. "Besides, some of these swords won't even get to be used, given how my magical abilities work." "Your magical abilities? I thought you said you didn't want to tell me about them until we had some time to fight or spar." Goku wondered. "That still applies, yes, but I figured giving you a small explanation wouldn't hurt either. I wouldn't want you to be at a clear disadvantage or anything like that," Urza honorably proclaimed. She motioned for Goku to sit down on the bed so she'd have some proper space to use her magic. "Here, Goku. Instead of explaining it in words, I'll give you a personal demonstration," Urza stated. She stood in place and took a deep breath. "Equip." Upon yelling this command, Urza's entire body was surrounded by golden light. The room began to shake as her magic power swelled with the utmost energy and strength. A red magic circle formed from behind as her current armor changed into a completely different outfit. Even her hair and sword were altered in tandem. The light then quickly dispersed, revealing a new form Goku had never seen before. Urza was now wearing a purple, sleeveless kimono with white flower design sprinkled throughout. A black obi was wrapped around her stomach and tied down by red string. Long purple cloths covered the sides and front of her waist, while her legs were covered by pink thigh-length stockings. She wore common sandals, rather than boots as well. In her right hand, she held a blue staff similar to the power pole called a bison. The major difference between the two was the fact that this staff had a sharp blade at the end. Smirking at Goku's reaction, Urza expertly spun her bison around and held it in front of him. "Robe of Iken," she yelled. Goku was stunned speechless. This kind of magic definitely seemed more impressive than Natsu's. That's incredible, Urza. How did you change your clothes like that?" Urza rested the bison beside her and said, "It's a form of caster and spatial magic called Requip. I store suits of armor like this one in a pocket dimension, so I can easily change in and out of them within seconds. Pretty fascinating, isn't it?" "I'll say. I don't even know how any of that works, but it does sound like it'd pretty be versatile in a fight," Goku replied. "It is. Each of my armors have different abilities from one another, so I can use them in many different ways." Urza further explained the capabilities of her Requip magic. This robe of Iken, for instance, has elastic properties that make it difficult to damage. "Geez. That's even more impressive." Goku whistled. He was getting more eager to see her strongest armors by the second. "However, there is a limit to how many armors I can keep in a pocket dimension, so I have to store a few in my closet. Some also drain a considerable amount of energy if used for too long." She pointed out her magic's potential drawbacks. "It's the main reason why I'm still working to improve my skills as a wizard." After spinning her bison one last time, Urza used Requip to place the robe of Iken back into storage. She was now back to wearing her normal outfit. "But anyway, that's the only armor I wanted you to see. I hope that was a suitable enough explanation, Goku. I tried to keep it simple." "Nah, it was fine. I'd be happy to help you train if any of your armors start giving you trouble." Goku offered his assistance. "I'd appreciate that, Goku. Thanks for offering." Urza nodded. She then sported a competitive yet playful smirk. "That'll have to be after our first fight, of course. Don't forget that." "You kidding? I can't wait for it, Urza." Goku pumped up his fists in sheer anticipation. "I can already tell it's gonna be awesome." Urza laughed at his enthusiasm. "I agree. However, given that our tour is over, we should probably save that for tomorrow. We need to report back with Master Makarov and see how Natsu is doing." "Yeah, guess that'd be the right thing to do." Plus he rested a hand over his stomach and rubbed it. "I'm getting a bit hungry again." Urza's face faltered in response to this statement. His metabolism must have been faster than even himself. "But your eating competition with Natsu was only a few hours ago. How in the world are you still hungry?" "I can't control my stomach sometimes, Urza. That's just how it is." Goku blankly replied. His stomach started groaning loudly from hunger. The Requip mage pinched the bridge of her nose and looked outside her bedroom window. To her surprise, it appeared that the sun was already beginning to set. DSK. I suppose it is almost time for dinner, so I can't blame you for being this way. Goku's eyes widened to the size of saucers. His mind was now focused on nothing else but eating dinner at Fairy Tail. Really, Eno promised that she was going to make me something for dinner. Let's go, Urza. Goku yelled. He then dashed out of Urza's room and hurriedly ran down the stairs. Slow down, you idiot. You don't even know where you're going. She growled as she locked her door and tried to catch up with him. Hopefully, for the sake of my wallet, I don't have to pay for him this time. Urza thought. Back at Fairy Tail. Night quickly fell over Magnolia once Urza and Goku made it back to the guild hall. There was nothing else left for them to do, so they mainly waited for dinner to start with everyone else. Urza reported to Makarov on how the guided tour went while Goku discussed it amongst Gray, Levi, Kana, Jet, and Roy. Natsu, unfortunately, was still sleeping in the infirmary, but given his strong sense of smell, everyone assumed he would wake up the moment food was going to be served. At least, that's what Gray predicted. Goku was currently talking about his recent visit to Fairy Hills. He went through most of the major highlights, but his introduction to Hilda, the building's matron, seemed to get some extra attention. Did Hilda really crawl all over you like that? That's pretty disturbing. Kana shuddered. She casually shuffled her deck of cards while talking. Yeah, I'm surprised. She's crabby most of the time, but not creepy. Levi said. Roy shrugged his shoulders. I mean, I'm not one to judge. I haven't even met the lady. That's cause you're a boy, Droy. Levi deadpanned. Hey. That rhymed. Jet quipped. The blue-haired girl did not look amused by her friend's banter. So, you got to see Urza's requip magic, after all, huh? What did you think? Gray whispered over to him. He looked to make sure Urza wasn't overhearing anything. It was really cool. I've never really seen anything like it before. Goku replied. Yeah. All Urza's a force to be reckoned with for sure, but to be honest, I still don't think she has enough power to beat you. She was pretty shaken up when you knocked Fire Breath's block off. Gray shared his honest opinion. He then pointed a finger at him. Don't tell her I said any of this, by the way. I get what you mean, Gray. Even the armor she showed me, while impressive, wasn't all that close to my level. Goku whispered back. He then pumped his fist. But I still want to fight her. I think it could be fun for both of us. Wasn't saying otherwise. Hell, it'll be fun to watch for sure. Gray smirked. Just don't, do what you did to Natsu, alright? Goku looked over at Gray. The Ice Mage looked somewhat concerned for Urza's well-being. They must have had a lot of history together. He nodded with a smile. I won't. I've learned my lesson the first time. Good. Glad we're on the same page, man. Gray said, raising his glass as a sign of respect. Goku then remembered the moment he asked Urza about her joining Fairy Tail. She appeared to instinctively hover a hand over one of her eyes before frowning. I wonder if he would know. Goku thought. He cleared his throat and sported a more serious expression. By the way, Gray, Goku murmured. Do you know if there's anything wrong with Urza's right eye? Did something happen to it? Gray raised his eyebrows. He did not expect him, a person who only just joined Fairy Tail, to ask that question so soon. What brought this up? He sighed while furrowing his black hair. Talking about this stuff usually made things uncomfortable pretty fast. Brought up what? Urza asked. She stood in front of Goku and Gray with crossed arms. Nothing, Urza. We were just wondering what would bring that dumb ash brain up from being passed out. Right, Goku. Gray coughed. Ironically enough, he broke out into a cold sweat just being near Urza's presence. Goku stammered. The Ice Mage then jabbed into the side. Yeah, that's right. It has been a pretty long time since our fight. Urza quirked a brow. She was not buying their little act for a second. Oh yeah, a very long time. What is he expecting to do? Sleep past dinner or something? Upon uttering the word dinner, Natsu slammed open the door with his foot and caused it to fly off its hinges in a small implosion of flames. He toothily grinned, not looking injured by Goku's attack in the slightest. Did someone say dinner? He shouted. Urza, no longer focusing on what Goku and Gray were discussing, just shook her head in amusement. Ha! Called it. Mikao laughed. Damn it. Wakaba cursed. He rummaged through his pocket and begrudgingly placed some jewels in Mikao's hand. Really? You two were betting on Natsu waking up by dinner time? Urza scowled. How immature. Oh come on, Urza. It's free real estate. Mikao defended his actions. He greedily counted the amount of jewels he won from his friend. It's not my fault Wakaba was stupid enough to fall for it. Yeah. Laugh it up. Wakaba grumbled. He adjusted his shades and took a swig of his beer. Lucky son of a bitch. Seated by the bar, Makarov grew angry at the sight of another door being destroyed by Natsu. You're paying for that door, Natsu. Oh come on, Gramps. I just woke up. Natsu groaned. He then lightly massaged his aching forehead. I have a really bad headache too for some reason. Well, maybe next time, you should think about opening the door like a person with proper manners. Makarov chastised him. He picked up his mug and chugged it down out of frustration. Manners, schmanners. All I care about right now is Natsu froze upon seeing his former opponent. Goku. Goku turned his head in surprise. Natsu. The Fire Dragon Slayer smirked. He slammed a fist into his palm, coating it completely in orange fire. Let's start round 2 right here, right now, man. Fight me. Natsu screamed. Just as he was about to jump over and punch Goku in the face with a Fire Dragon Iron Fist, Urza grabbed him by his shirt collar. Hayak. He choked. Take it easy, moron. Aren't you hungry after laying in bed for such a long period of time? Urza grunted. Oh right. I almost forgot. Natsu chuckled as he scratched his pink hair in a childlike manner. Then sit down and wait for dinner like the rest of us. Urza abruptly plopped him down in a seat position next to Goku and Gray. Natsu awkwardly stood up straight. Why yes ma'am. You do remember that you have to help pay for Goku's previous meal, right? Gray inquired as he rested his hands on the table. Ugh, man. Don't remind me. Natsu shook his head and blew out a sigh. He then looked over at Goku. How'd the rest of your tour go, dude? It was alright. Didn't really care for the parts where we looked at libraries and stuff, but I did get to see one of Urza's armors up close. Levi was clearly offended by such a comment. But the resource room has so many different sources of knowledge and reading material to choose from. What's not to love about it? Books are boring. Now, what type of armor did you see? Was it a cool one? Tell me. Natsu eagerly asked. It was my robe of Econ armor. I didn't actually get to use it, but I believe its Bison would be a good match against Goku's power pole. Urza answered her friend's question. I was thinking the same thing when I first saw it. Goku nodded his head in agreement. Natsu groaned. Man, wish I could have been there. If it makes you feel better, Natsu, Goku and I will be having a fight of our own fairly soon. Possibly tomorrow if all goes as planned. The pink-haired wizard widened his eyes and smiled like a madman. Wait, seriously, that's gonna be sick, you guys. I'm getting all fired up just thinking about it. Indeed, Urza nodded her head. But for now, let's eat. I'm a bit famished myself. Natsu slammed a fist on the table, smiling. Hell yeah. Let's bring on the grub, Enno. The aforementioned bartender came out of the kitchen and fixed up her dark purple hair. She looked somewhat exhausted. Hold your horses, Natsu. I've been busy preparing something special for Goku, so cooking took a little longer than usual tonight. Goku pointed to himself in surprise. Me? MMHM. That's right, sweetie. The master wanted it to serve as a little welcoming gift to celebrate your first day here at Fairy Tail. Enno explained with a smile. Goku waved a hand in front of him. He didn't like being given special attention. You guys didn't need to do that. I'll be okay with normal food, honestly. Makarov hopped off of the bar and walked over to where Goku was sitting. Nonsense, my boy. As a member of this guild, I have very high expectations for you. I just know you'll achieve great things during your stay here. The guildmaster said with the highest amount of confidence he could muster. And what better way is there to wish you luck as a potential wizard than this? He gave Enno the signal to run back into the kitchen. After a few moments passed, she came back with a large cake in her hands. It was, surprisingly, shaped like a large blue version of the fairy tale symbol. The message written in red frosting was placed in the middle of the symbol. It read, "Enjoy your stay at the guild, Goku." Goku couldn't help but smile at it. This was mainly because of how good the cake looked, but the message behind it wasn't bad either. You don't have to eat it right away, of course. After all, eating dessert before dinner just wouldn't make much sense. Makarov exclaimed in a kind tone. But we can start off with a toast. He climbed on top of the bar and stood in front of everyone. Raise your glasses, everyone. Let's dedicate this dinner to our new martial artist from another world. Makarov announced. He then picked up his beer mug. Cheers to Goku. Everyone, including the younger members, contributed to this guild-wide toast. They either raised their glasses, clanked them against each other, or took a drink. Cheers to Goku. They shouted happily. Thanks again, guys. I'm really looking forward to getting stronger here. Goku beamed in determination. Makarov, pleased with this response, clapped his hands together. Well, as your new family, we'll help in whatever way we can, my boy. For now, though, let's eat till our bellies are about to burst. Ha. You said it, Gramps. Natsu chuckled. Enno gently placed Goku's cake in the middle of his table and then left to serve everyone else with all the food that was left in the kitchen beforehand. She was going to try saving the best prepared food for Goku and potentially Natsu as well. Once she got everyone situated and ready to eat, the members of Fairy Tail all shared one big meal together. They ate, exchanged conversations with each other, and even challenged one another to see who would get drunk the fastest. Macau, specifically, tried to get drunk enough to ask Eno out, but as per usual, she was far too busy to even recognize his existence. Thankfully, Wakaba was there to give him some moral support, even if he did still lose a ton of jewels because of their whole bet concerning Natsu's awakening. Goku, although enjoying his food above all else, felt content sitting inside this guild. It reminded him of the day he ate at a restaurant with Master Roshi, Bulma, Krillin, and the others after the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament ended. He may have lost that tournament to Jackie-chan, but being in the company of his friends made that loss far less bitter than it could have been. He wondered if Fairy Tail could give him that same feeling, eventually. They'd never be able to replace the friends he made back in his own world, but Natsu, Gray, Urza, and everyone else could definitely prove to be just as important to him someday. Maybe Baba bringing me here was a good idea, after all, Goku thought. He smiled a bit wider, which Urza couldn't help reciprocating. A couple hours passed, and everyone was stuffed. Goku, of course, still had room for his cake, so he began reaching for it with his hands. Urza was about to say something in protest, but Eno ended up interrupting her. "Don't use your hands, silly. I'll cut it for you." She giggled, bringing out a small knife. "Just tell me which piece you want." Well, I was kinda hoping I could eat the whole thing, but Goku saw Urza glaring at him out of the corner of his eye. "I don't think that's such a good idea. Maybe the top piece, please." "You got it, Han." Eno chirped. She cut the piece and handed it to him on a plate. Goku, the slob that he usually is, grabbed the small piece and swallowed it whole. Urza wasn't even sure she saw him bite into it. "Thank you," Goku said with his mouth full. "By the way, I just realized something. Where's Goku going to sleep?" Natsu asked as he wolfed down his own piece of cake. "It's getting pretty late, isn't it?" I didn't think about that," Urza muttered. "He could sleep in the infirmary. There's always a few open beds in there," Kana suggested. Makarov shook his head in refusal. "I'm afraid that could only be temporary, my dear. Goku needs a place he can live in for a few days or possibly a week at most," Makarov said. "Completing a job can be a slow process, I'm afraid. Higher paying ones are rare for those who aren't S-class yet." "Oh," Kana murmured. She was starting to feel a little bad. There has to be some place he can go. Eno, after no pieces of the cake were left to cut, stood near the table. She glanced at Goku, who didn't seem to have any visible reaction to this predicament. It was as if he was used to living on his own, much to her sympathy. She then smiled and thought of an, admittedly, out there proposition. "I mean, if it's not any issue, Master, I could take him in," Eno said. "But you live in Fairy Hills with the rest of us, Eno. Boys aren't allowed to live there," Urza pointed out in uncertainty. "I doubt Hilda would take too kindly to such an idea as well." "That may be true, Urza, but technically, Goku won't be the one living there. He'll be staying in my room, so he'll just be a temporary guest and nothing more than that." Eno offered her perspective on the matter. She sported a confident twinkle in her violet eyes. "I don't think that's how that works, Eno," Levi muttered. "Trust me, girls. I really don't think it's that big of a deal. Goku's very strong, after all, so once he completes some jobs, the jewels will come rolling in and he'll be able to get a place of his own soon," Eno rebutted. She then glanced over at her guildmaster and father figure. "Is that okay with you, Master Makarov?" Well, it'd be the first time in the guild's history where a boy lives at Fairy Hills, but Makarov mumbled. Eno then leaned forward so Makarov could get a good look at her large breasts. She didn't like using her feminine wiles on him, but desperate times called for desperate measures. Makarov's face turned beet red as he smiled a bit too perversely. "Hey, what the hell. I'll make an exception just this once, Eno. Just make sure to take good care of Goku until he's ready to live on his own." Eno winked and gave out a V sign for victory with her fingers. "Thanks a bunch, Master. I promised to make him feel right at home with me." Macau fell out of his chair and started crying bitter tears of frustration. He couldn't believe how lucky this kid was. The fact that he wasn't even trying to gain Eno's attention made it even more infuriating. Goku looked confused. "Are you sure you're okay with this, Eno? I could just sleep outside the guild hall or something. I've done it plenty of times before, so I don't mind." The purple-haired dancer wrapped an arm around him and gave his shoulder a little squeeze. "Nonsense, Goku. For someone as cute as you, I'd be more than happy to give you a place to stay. It's my pleasure." Nearby, Kana found herself feeling more annoyed than she intended. She didn't like how touchy-feely Eno was getting with Goku for some reason. "Well, if Master Makarov approves of this unusual idea, then there's nothing else I can really say." Urza shrugged her shoulders in defeat. "Should we call it a night for today, Master?" Makarov looked over at the guild hall's clock and nodded affirmatively. I believe so, dear. It's getting pretty late. Gray jerked his thumb at the table. I dunno. Shouldn't we finish this cake before? On it? Natsu interjected. He scooped up the last pieces of cake and swallowed them all, looking satisfied. That hit the spot. Never mind then. Eno stretched out her arms. I'll clean up the kitchen a little and then we can go, alright, Goku. Alright. Take your time, Eno. Goku replied. The dancer then ruffled his hair a bit before walking toward the back of the bar. With Eno gone for the time being, Kana shyly leaned over to Goku so she could get his attention. Hey Goku? She asked. Goku turned around in curiosity. Yeah? What is it, Kana? The brown-haired girl played with her hair a bit before speaking. Her cheeks, to Levi and Urza's intrigue, were faintly flushed. Seeing as you're going to be living in Fairy Hills for a little while, would you maybe want to hang out a little these next few days? I'd really like to show you more of my magic card ability sometime. She stammered. Given that he spent most of the day with Urza, Goku figured that getting know some other fairy tale members his age would be a refreshing experience. Kana, in particular, seemed like a nice enough girl to him. Sure, Kana. We'll definitely have more time to talk later on. Goku nodded with a close-eyed smile. I am stuck here for 3 years, after all. Haha. Kana held a hand over her mouth and giggled. Great. I'm looking forward to it. Bray viewed this scene with a quirked brow. To him, it came a bit out of the blue. What just happened there? I don't know. What happened to your clothes? Natsu muttered. As indicated, Gray was currently down to his trunks and nothing else. God damn it. Why now? He scowled as he desperately tried to put his clothes back on. Minute after minute passed by until Eno was finished cleaning. She grabbed a hold of her purse and blew out a sigh of relief. Everything's spick and span for tomorrow, master. I'll be back here first thing in the morning. She said while cheerfully bowing her head. Makarov bowed back and shared a grandfatherly grin with her. That's good, dear. Have a good rest tonight. He then looked over at all of his children in Fairy Tail with the same kindness. Good night to all of you as well. I still need to finish filing some annoying paperwork, but I'll see you kids tomorrow. He bobbed his head. The old man then pointed at the spiky-haired Z-fighter. And as for you, Goku, expect to either start your first job tomorrow or do some form of training. Whichever works for you. That includes my potential fight with him too, I assume? Urza asked. Makarov lightly chuckled. Yes, dear. That is a form of training, is it not? I suppose it is, master. Good night. Urza smiled back and waved her hand. Night, Gramps. Night. Gray nodded. Good night. Jed and Droy waved to him in unison. Pleasant dreams, kids. Don't stay up too late now, you hear? Makarov advised. He then walked into his office and gently shut the door. Welp, we should be heading out now, kiddo. Wouldn't want to disobey Master Makarov's orders. She rested a hand on Goku's shoulder. She then darted her violet eyes toward Urza, Kana, and Levi. You gonna walk with us, girls? We're all going to the same place, so we might as well. Urza replied. Before leaving, she tightly wrapped her arms around Gray and Natsu. Good night, you two. Don't you dare kill each other while I'm gone, understand? Understood loud and clear, boss. Jayak. Natsu choked. Why yeah, we won't. I swear. Gray shakily promised. Good. Urza nodded in satisfaction. She then tightened the strength of her embrace, much to the duo's agony. I'll be seeing you tomorrow then. See ya. They both replied. Urza then let go of them, giving them some ample room to breathe before they suffocated. Good night, guys. It was nice meeting you today. Goku waved at them. For sure, Goku. Don't forget that we're gonna have our rematch one day, alright? I have that newly lit fire in my belly that's just waiting to burst. Haha. Natsu grinned from ear to ear. Night, man. Don't be a stranger at all. Gray laxly raised his hand. Goku smiled at both of them and replied to each of their statements. I won't. The 5 of them made their way toward the door until Eno was stopped by an overly passionate Mikao. He held a hand over his heart and looked down at the purple-haired woman. Good night, sweet Eno. I wish I could put the feelings I'm experiencing into words, but… Unfortunately, she didn't pay attention to a single word he was saying and assumed something completely different. Wow. Are you holding the door for us, Mikao? That's so nice of you. She beamed. Mikao froze in place from shock. Sure. The blue-haired wizard stuttered as he stiffly opened the door for everyone. Urza almost felt sorry for how badly that attempt went. That was painful to watch, she thought. The group walked through the door, leaving Eno the last one to leave the guild hall. Have a good night, Kay. She winked at him. Why you too? Mikao whispered before slowly shutting the door behind him. A period of incredibly awkward silence passed before he collapsed onto the floor in defeat. Bakaba adjusted his shades and patted him on the back. "Well, at least she said your name right this time. Back at Fairy Hills. What kind of crap are you trying to pull here, Enno?" Upon reaching Fairy Hills, said waitress needed to convince Hilda to let Goku stay there. The matron was notorious for being stubborn and hard to please, so Enno was struggling to reason with her. It didn't help that she had a reputation for, ironically, keeping her room messy throughout the entire day without cleaning it. This made her one of Hilda's least favorite tenants for obvious reasons. "It won't be for that long. Please. I'm begging you." Enno whined. She scooped up Goku and held him in front of the old woman. "Come on. You can't say no to this face, can you?" Can you let me down now?" Goku politely asked. Enno, however, kept clinging onto him like a stuffed animal. "Actually, yes, in fact, I can say no to that face because he's a boy. Boys are not allowed to live in Fairy Hills, and that's final." Hilda scoffed in disgust. "But I'm telling you, he's not like other boys. Heck, I don't think he even knows what a pervert is or how to be one." Enno pleaded with her to listen. "These three can vouch for what I'm saying too. I know it may seem too hard to believe, but he is telling the truth, Hilda. Goku is as obliviousness as they come," Urza proclaimed. "He's also really easy to talk to," Levi added. "And very nice when you get to know him." Kana muttered with a faint blush on her cheeks once again. "See what I mean? He's harmless. He won't bother any of the girls living here." Enno gestured toward Goku with her hand. "Well, maybe Urza, but he doesn't do that intentionally, I assure you." "Hey. What's that supposed to mean?" Goku asked in minor offense. Hilda rested her hands on her lips, frowning. "HMPH. He's really not going to be a peeping Tom, is he? Is that what you're saying?" "Well, my name's Goku, so I can't really be called Tom, anyway, sir I mean ma'am," Goku obliviously replied. Urza, right then and there, considered knocking herself out with a facepalm. Hilda, hearing a statement she could only describe as one of the stupidest responses she's ever heard, started to laugh. "Ha ha ha. You know what, kid? You're alright. I haven't had someone make me laugh like that in a long time. However, if he's really going to stay here, you'll need to pay double the amount of rent. Meaning 200,000 jewel per month with no potential discounts. Is that clear, Enno?" Enno nodded her head. She couldn't believe this actually worked. "Crystal, Hilda. This kid's a certified powerhouse, so he'll be racking in the dough in no time flat. Be better, because if you don't pay that amount on time." Hilda opened one of her closed eyes to glare at the young woman. "You have no right to call yourself a fairy tale wizard." "I'll help her pay for the room, Hilda. I don't to be a burden for any of you guys." "That's quite noble of you, Goku. Good luck with that." Hilda sniffed. She then walked into the dormitory without looking back. "Good night, girls." "Good night, Hilda." All of them said in response. "Thanks again." Enno chirped. She wiped some sweat off her forehead and set Goku down. "Phew. Glad that's over with." She then bent on her knees to look at the much shorter Goku. "Let's hurry up and get to my room. You've had a long day today." "Yeah?" Goku began to yawn loudly. "I think I have." The group then walked into Fairy Hills and went up the stairs. From there, everyone went their separate ways. Levi waved back at everyone and went into her room while Kana stayed behind. "Good night, Goku." Kana beamed. "If you happen to pick out a job tomorrow, let me know and I can try going with you. I'll be glad to help you out." "Sounds great, Kana." "Thanks." Goku nodded. "Don't mention it." She smiled back at him affectionately. Kana then said goodbye to the others before officially going to bed. Urza crossed her arms. She was a little bothered by what Kana said. Given her status as Goku's tour guide, she felt more qualified to help him on his first job. Hopefully, they wouldn't get into any arguments because of that. Enno was more than privy to Urza and Kana's change in attitude around the martial artist. She sported a playful grin and looked down at the boy. "Heh. Look at that. First day and he's already a little lady killer." It was this moment that Enno knew she would have lots of fun with Goku around. His cheerful, free-spirited personality was an added bonus. Urza placed the keys in her door's lock and opened it. "Good night, Enno and Goku. Have a pleasant rest." "You too, Urza. Thanks for everything you showed me today. You really helped me understand how the guild works. It means a lot, really." Goku nodded his head in gratitude. "No thanks necessary, Goku. It was my job to show you around the guild and I performed it as adequately as I could." Urza smiled. She then gave him a thumbs up. "From now on, we'll be guildmates, so treat me just like anybody else." Goku returned the same gesture. "You got it, Urza. See you later. Take care." She trailed off before closing the door behind her. Enno looked from Goku to Urza in quick succession. Although it was only a day, she could tell those two had the potential to form a genuine connection with one another. "Looks like you two really hit it off, huh?" she whispered. "I think so. I can tell we're going to be good friends." Goku smiled at the thought. "Agreed. Plus, she is pretty cute, don't you think?" Eno added. She was hoping to see a potential reaction come out of Goku, but to her disappointment, nothing happened. "What does that have to do with anything, Eno?" "Oh, nothing. Nothing at all." She lied in a playful manner. "Let's just get some sleep, Kay. My room's right around the corner." "Cool. Lead the way." Goku nodded. Eno then quietly tiptoed with her bare feet so she wasn't making any noise. She pushed open the door and then walked into her room. "Welp, this is home. Make yourself comfortable." Eno introduced with a smile. "I'll try to find some sheets and an extra pillow you can use." As he entered Eno's room, Goku found himself viewing an absolute pigsty. Various clothes and pieces of paper were tossed all over the place in multiple different piles. Issues of something called Sorcerer magazine were also strewn across the floor, some of which seemed to be torn apart for reasons unknown. Eno also seemed to have copies of her pink lei hanging along her shelves, closets, and lamps. She probably switched them around every other day or so. Who knew someone that cooks could be this messy? Goku thought in surprise. A dancer was singing to herself in the bathroom while changing into a fresh pair of clothes. Rubbing his eyes, Goku caught sight of Eno's bed and walked towards it as if on autopilot. He only sat there at first, but as he continued waiting for Eno to get ready, the boy quickly drifted off to sleep. "Sorry about the mess, by the way. I usually have to clean everything back at the guild hall, so when I'm here, I just like to decompress and not bother with." She was surprised to see Goku resting his head on her pillow and snoring with his mouth open. Normally she'd be upset by this, but given how peaceful he looked, Eno would allow it just for tonight. Now wearing a pair of orange pajamas, Eno gently tucked Goku underneath the covers and took his shoes off. The warrior from Earth now looked even more peaceful, much to her delight. She then gently kissed him on the cheek, an action which caused Goku to thoroughly rub at it in his sleep. "Sweet dreams, Goku." Without another word, Eno turned off the lights, grabbed an extra pillow and blanket, and went to sleep herself. She laid down to the side of the bed so Goku wouldn't be disturbed. It was then that Goku's first day as a member of Fairy Tail came to pass. What new adventures would tomorrow bring for the warrior turned potential mage? The end.